Greetings. It's Uncle Odd, mostly. But tonight, it's Uncle Vigilante. And I am so darned excited about tonight because we have a crypto consultant with us, someone who can speak to newbies like me who, frankly, don't know shit. You know, there are a lot of us out there who know that we should put our toe into the crypto water or maybe dive into the shallow end head first. But we have someone here who's going to kind of walk slowly with us, kind of hold our hand up the on-ramp. And, you know, if you like what you hear, at the end, we're going to tell you how you can reach Jeran. And if you want to be able to have somebody who can just kind of keep you sane and safe, Jeran is the man. And I'm really grateful that he is, this guy's forgotten more about live streaming or YouTube or multiple platforms than I'll ever know. So we're lucky to have him. Jeran, welcome to the show.
Very happy to be here. I had to come on because you came on my show, had a good time over there. You said some really profound things, whether you realize it or not, you did. And I noticed that your head is no longer squished. So, for you.
Yeah, I can't remember what platform we were on, but yeah, that was, what was it?
StreamYard squished your head for some reason.
StreamYard, yeah. So I put on a little weight, right? I don't look like Thin Man.
Nope.
And
I think you said it was because of some sort of COVID variant. So the good thing is that.
So just to set the table a little bit for everyone, if you don't know me, I'm Uncle Odd. I've been on I've had lots of YouTube channels that have been and bay, and I don't even know what you can and can't say these days that gets you to cross the line to where they just say, nope, strike one, strike two, strike three, you're out. But, you know, I decided that after my last one, the Uncle Odd Show, that I was going to start focusing on something that is really of interest to me right now. It's kind of like everything that's going on in this world. I feel a bit fatigued, as I'm sure all of you do. And I wanted to do something constructive, not something that you put a lot of energy and effort into it only to be deplatformed. And so Uncle Vigilante was born because I attended the Crypto Vigilante Summit. And this was a 2-day summit that was just amazing, to where, spirit of full disclosure, I really, really, really am a newbie in this world of crypto. Mid-January, I had somebody reach out to me and say, Uncle Odd, you need to invest in XRP. And I was like, what's XRP? and then they said, it's cryptocurrency. And I'm like, I don't know anything about cryptocurrency. And so this person kind of held my hand a little bit, pointed me in the right direction. And I'd gotten a little bonus. And I thought, you know, I'm going to go ahead and just do what I do, which is kind of dive in the shallow end head first. And this is not a humble brag. At all. Please don't take it as such. And by the way, this is not investment advice. Nothing on this show is investment advice. This is just me being really, really interested in this new world called cryptocurrency that, as of probably 5 weeks ago, I didn't know anything. Well, I invested $30,000 in a portfolio of cryptocurrency coins, mostly at the time, you know, XRP, it was heavily weighted. And I was told it was going to go to the moon. I bought it at like 28 cents. And apparently at one point in time, it was $4. What my friend didn't tell me is that the SEC had filed a lawsuit against Ripple, who is the company behind this cryptocurrency coin XRP. And I didn't know that. Well, Coinbase, which is where I bought it, they all of a sudden on the 19th of January, they took it off of Coinbase, so you couldn't even trade it. So I'm like, what the heck do I do? In the meantime, I had people tell me who were smarter than me, hey, you got to get your cryptocurrency off of Coinbase, off of any exchange, and you got to get it, to an offline storage wallet. And if you're new, guess what? You're going to go through the same learning process that I did. That took about a month to just figure out the vernacular, what everything is, what an exchange is, what a cold storage wallet is, what a keyword is, all of this stuff that just makes you go like, ugh. And then when you have to send something, how do you do that? How do you know that it arrives safely? And how do you not get screwed? Well, I'm going to fast forward to today, and there is an app called Blockfolio, and I just want to let you know. And again, not bragging about how smart I am investment wise. It's just that I started ugly. I just decided to do it. But that portfolio right now, I'll hold it up, but now it's $63,000.
Holy smokes.
And it could have gone the other way. That's what I want you to understand. It could have gone the other way. It's just my timing has been where the cryptocurrency market is very bullish right now. I mean, today we celebrate the fact that Bitcoin broke through $50,000. And that is a barrier that, when it goes through, it's going to test and bounce off of 50. Well, I think it's up to right now, as a matter of fact, it's $52,381. So the fact that it's north of 50,000, the trend is your friend here, from what I understand. And again, I don't know shit. I'm very humble about that. But what I am is a curious person. And what I am, when I went into this, the Crypto Vigilante Summit, I lived those 2 days in the comments. And what I saw on the second half of the second day was a whole lot of people like me who were just like, over their heads. It was like, it wasn't a 101 in that conference. It was more like, graduate school. And I looked in there, and there's so many people that were just pleading, saying, just give me a 101. I just want to know the most basic stuff. Like, how can I take $1,000 of my fiat currency in the bank and get it into cryptocurrency and have it stored somewhere safely? Well, I launched this channel, and my very first guest on this channel, it was actually a different channel. It was the Uncle Odd Show that has been deleted forever, but I am going to reload it back up to this one. But I'll put an interview. I was able to get an interview with the man himself, the Crypto Vigilante. He came on and he spent a couple hours with me to talk about the summit, the basics, and he has agreed that we're going to put together a weekly program to really just kind of walk through this with people. And but because what I realized is that there is such a need out there for people who are that want to play footsie with cryptocurrency, but just don't know how. And they're just pleading for somebody to just not give them a lot of options. Oh yeah, there's this exchange and that exchange, and you can look at these coins and that coin. No. There are some of us out there that want to be led. They want to just be told, hey, this is what you do. Go to this exchange, buy these 5 coins right now. They're pretty safe. They're blue chip, if you will. Go on to Amazon, order a Trezor T. When that's en route, don't worry about it now. We'll deal with that later. But then we need to get those coins off of Coinbase, and we need to put them onto, in my case, it was Exodus. And then you need to sync it up with your Trezor T. All of this stuff that if you're watching and you're brand new, you're going, huh? So this channel is dedicated to the newbie. And I am committed to get people on this show who can walk slowly with us, educate us, tell us what to do, give us some real guidance. There's a whole lot of videos out there, the how-to videos and such. And I'm just publishing this and these conversations with you to be a voyeur, to be able to listen in so that you can learn as I learn. So this is really me just having some conversations with some folks as a curious person, as somebody who just is really interested in this. And man, oh man, based upon my returns so far, I've never made that kind of those kind of returns. Again, I say it could have gone the other way, and it still very well could. But with that as an introduction, I want Jeran, who I know from his other work, his other body of work. He's a legend. He's a legend. I'll let him go into to what he does on a daily basis if he so chooses, or we can just focus on Crypto 101. Jeran is a consultant who, if you want to have your hand held on a one-on-one basis, he is available and he'll be able to share with you. So with that, Jeran, let me just open it up with you and tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience with crypto, and how you can help.
Sure. Yeah. So, people who know me, my name's Jeran. I have the channel Jeranism, the website, jeranism.com. And yeah, I've been covering conspiracies, flat earth, lies, deception, lies in the news, obviously all these things. And then most recently got into a little bit more politics than I would like with all the nonsense going on. And of course, the COVID's scamdemic, of course. So, covering all those topics on my channel. And, I get the same kind of treatment that you get, Uncle Odd. I get, shut down, we get banned, we get muted, we get delisted, demonetized. So it's tough to find everything. So the best place to go is jeranism.com. At least there's a, link for links where you can find all the places I am. And there's a, some couple links to a Telegram notification channel. So at least you'll know when I upload things and, where I'm going live. So if you had that Telegram notification channel.
What is the Telegram?
So it's t.me/Jeranism show. And all that, it's just a channel where every time before I go live, whether it's 5, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, I post the links. So like today, if you were a member there, you would have gotten a link to this show on YouTube, and then one because I'm live on my D Live and live on my Twitch. So you would have gotten all those links. So it's just easier for people to find everything.
Smart.
In one spot, right? So,
yeah.
So that's what I do, daily. I mean, if you're talking about my daily, I run a lot of shows. We have a Monday Night Raw show with David Weiss and Jason Lindgren, and we've got a Thursday show that Uncle Odd was on with us with Alex Stein and also Dave Weiss. And then I'm part of a panel on Globebusters on Sundays. We did a Friday Lounge for the last year on Fridays. So just been real busy with that kind of stuff. Yeah. And, recently I've, got back into Bitcoin. What I mean by that is, and we can get into that a little bit.
Sure.
My history with that started back in around 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, long time. And my wife and I had quit our jobs to work from home. We were going to run a bookstore, online bookstore. We both had huge collections. So we started this bookstore. We loaded everything up there. And then, of course, the one thing that you never think about is the fact that you have to actually bring customers to your online store. They don't just magically appear, something I didn't know at the time. So we had a lot of free time at home, and I did a lot of reading, did a lot of researching and studying. And then I started looking for other ways to make money basically online since I was working from home. And I found, Bitcoin, and just started to look into it, started to research it, really liked the idea. It was almost like, wow, this is almost too good to be true. So just kept, reading about it and learning more, and was really interested in the security aspect of it. So I looked deeper into that. And then I saw a few websites. One of them was bitscan.com and the other one was cryptocoinsnews.com. I don't think either of them still exist, but you can find them on the Wayback Machine. But both of them were hiring for writers. BitScam was looking for a head security writer, a head safety and security writer. So, I applied, and they basically asked me to write, here, write these 3 articles and we'll take a look. So I wrote those 3 articles, and sure enough, they hired me. So that was all. And then same thing with Crypto Coins News, only there I was more of like a journalist. So interviewing and following up with various Bitcoin projects and doing that kind of thing. So the sad thing about that was, I don't like to mention this too much because it makes me sad. At the time I was being paid 0.3 Bitcoin per article. Okay. So that is, at the time was about $75 per article. Article would take me 3-4 hours. Wasn't a big deal. And I was willing to do it for, $75. And they limited me to 2 articles a week. So, I was writing 2 articles a week, was making about, 0.6 Bitcoin a week. And, so they started stacking up. So pretty soon I had 20 Bitcoin, and I put that in a cold storage and put it in my wall safe and moved on. And After a while, I had another 20 and put that in cold storage and moved on. So it was about 2014 when I just started to hear too many stories of people getting either scammed or losing their life savings, not understanding Bitcoin enough. And being a head safety and security writer, it was a problem for me because I felt like in every article that I didn't feel comfortable unless I said at the end, like all these things that people needed to do, because there's
Mhm.
multiple steps, right, at the time. And so, I kind of got disillusioned with it a little bit. I've told the story before. I know some guy who contacted me who lost $80,000 by
Mm.
basically sending it to a scam website. And then I spent the next months and months trying to help this guy get his money back. And it was just a whole ordeal. And so at the end of that whole ordeal, I just kind of shook my head and I said, I'm not sure Bitcoin is going to have lasting power. There was a lot of things back then that there's have been repaired since then. For
Right.
instance, wallets were a little bit more difficult. They were a little bit more clunky. They were a little bit harder to navigate. You could easily lose a password and lose all of your Bitcoin. Some things have been repaired as far as that. You could send Bitcoin to the wrong address and it'd be gone forever. So there was just like a ton of problems with it that I saw. And at the time, Bitcoin was about $200, I think, a Bitcoin. And I just kind of said, well, this could do well, could not do well. But, I'm not going to, I don't want to be responsible for people losing money, right? It just didn't
Mhm.
feel right to write about it when I said still people are going to come across these articles and I just don't want them jumping in, and then all of a sudden losing money. So I stopped writing and kind of put that on the back burner. And then that was right at 2014, which led into me getting into YouTube and starting to make YouTube videos. Now,
Mhm.
one of the reasons I was able to do that is because I was basically living off the Bitcoin. And around 2015, 2016 into 2017, Bitcoin would fluctuate in price, but it got as high as like 6, 7, 800 bucks, even as far as like 1,000. I think I sold my last Bitcoin at $1,000 in like around 2017. So as the price would go up, I looked at it as very much like a gambling thing, right? So meaning that when Bitcoin doubled in price, all of a sudden I was looking at it like, man, they thought they were paying me 75 per article. Now I've been paid 150 per article, right? So whenever I had the opportunity or whenever we needed it, I still had other money coming through. The bookstore was doing okay. I mean, we were, maybe making 40 or 50 bucks a day, but not enough to get by. But at the end of the month, if I needed to pay bills or we just weren't, making ends meet, then I would go to the cold storage, sell some Bitcoin and be fine. So that's kind of what I did, is lived off that Bitcoin for a while. And I really wish the price would have started going up crazy right then, because I probably would have seen the writing on the wall and just said, I'm going to hold this. But for those 2 or 3 years, or even longer, Bitcoin was staying in that 200 range, two to seven, I would say.
Yeah.
I'd go back and look at the exact, numbers. I remember it didn't get much over 1,000. And so as it got up to say 600, all of a sudden it was like, we're laughing like, oh my goodness, now they paid me, 225 per article.
Mhm.
I'm getting paid $100 an hour to write articles, so it's kind of like one of those things where too many people look at things from like a poor person's standpoint, which is if you put $1,000 in something and that money doubles, you want to take that 2,000 out, right? You want to get that
Right.
money, you feel really good about yourself, even though it's not life changing. It's not going to make a huge difference to you. People are just programmed that way. It's a kind of a gambler's
Sure.
mentality. What's his name? Robert Kawasaki, I think. Is that his last name? Can't remember. Is it? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but
Mhm.
really looking at some of the stuff he's done, and he lays it out there where you can't think like an employee, you can't think like like a poor person. You really need to think for the future and ahead. Of course, I learned all these things well after that. Looking back, things would have been a lot different. I would have done that. So anyway, by the end of 2017, I had sold my last Bitcoin at about $1,000 and didn't feel bad about it. It wasn't like I felt like, oh man, I really should have kept some of this. I needed it, right? So 2018, 2019 go by, and I'm just watching what's happening with Bitcoin. We get into 2020 and now today. And really, you look back, and I realized that my problem was that the problems I saw with Bitcoin, I wrote off as being problems that could never be fixed, right?
Mm.
I didn't realize that innovation would come around, that new wallets would be created, that things would get easier, that people would get smarter. That if I would have looked at it that way, I would have seen the potential for it to continue to go up. So when I hear people today who have that stance of, nah, I don't, it's not going to last, it doesn't have
Right.
staying power, I have a problem with that, because I want to try and tell them, you don't want to be like me and realize 8 years down the road that you had a potential to do something that could have been life-changing, right? It's not very often in life that something comes around that you can look back and say, oh, that would have been life-changing. For me, if I look back and let's say I even kept the second cold wallet in the wall safe of 20 Bitcoin, I would feel I would be a million. Yeah, I'd be a millionaire. I'd be able to retire, at least be able to buy a house and be comfortable and not have to worry about whether YouTube is taking my channels down or whether ads are on or not, or what did I do in super chats, all the struggle that I go through today. And my struggle today is still figuring out how to make enough money to get by next month. So everything I do is very, singleized. Now, lucky for me that throughout 2018, 2019, 2020, if I ever had any extra money, I would put it in Bitcoin, right? It'd be little bits, a little bit here, a little bit there. And I look at it a different way than most people now. For instance, you have that Blockfolio app, right?
Yeah.
I purposely don't have that. And the reason why is because what I do is I send Bitcoin to my address when I have extra money and I don't want to see what's in there. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to ever look at it. I try and chalk it up to it being a loss, right?
Okay.
So if I buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, I send it to my wallet and I consider the same thing as if my wife and I went out and ate an expensive dinner, or whether we went on a little trip and stayed in a hotel, that money's gone and there's no use in looking at it. And I do that so that I don't ever, let's say, Bitcoin being $50,000 today, if something catastrophic were to happen and it goes down to 30,000 or whatever, I don't want to look at my wallet and be like, oh my God, I just lost $5,000.
Right.
That's one of those gut punches you don't want. I'm looking at it as a long-term plan. In fact, I don't plan on touching, I've got a little bit of Bitcoin in my desktop wallet, but the one that I send to my cold storage, my goal would be, and a lot of people ask me in the consultations, what do you think Bitcoin's price will be in 20 years, this and that. And I can't really give that answer because I think, I try and tell them a Bitcoin will be worth a Bitcoin in 20 years, right? So one Bitcoin today is worth one Bitcoin, and one Bitcoin in 20 years is worth one Bitcoin. But I said, I wouldn't be surprised if one Bitcoin in 20 years buys you what we would consider $1 million home today. And I get that from several different places, but I think that it is the scarcest asset in the world. That's something I would say, unless you want to talk about the Mona Lisa. Somebody will say, okay, yeah, the Mona Lisa, maybe, if you're talking about one item that none of us will ever be able to have. But if you're talking about something that will always remain to be the scarcest asset, and it's got several qualities over gold that I see, at least. So to me, it looks like to write it off at this point, I think would be foolish. I think cryptocurrency is here. It's coming. It's not a fad. It's not going away. I think a lot of people think that. They think, and maybe people, I wasn't really at the age that at the time like email came out, but I remember my dad refused to look at computers, that he just didn't like them. I don't want to learn that shit, And, 20 years went by of him just trying to get around ever using a computer, to the point where he just had to suck it up and finally do it. But he was behind everybody else, so far behind. And I look at crypto as the same way, that you can just refuse to look at it and say, nah, I don't like it. It's not going to, it's not going to take off or whatever. But I hope those people recognize it, and we're, 5 years away from it being so mainstream that you have to use it, in my mind. The blockchain is something that we are 5 years away from probably everybody in the world knowing what that is and how to use it and how it's used. And it'll be used for everything, for property rights, for pretty much anything you can think of, even as far as patents and things like that. You want that. You want a never ending, never changing, copy of certain things. That's how you prove ownership, right? So it'll be used in lots of different ways, very soon. So people can either, kick back and say, no, I'm not interested right now. And that's fine. You might be missing something. You might not. Maybe something happens soon, and then you get rewarded for never being involved in it. For me, I think that the reward is going to be the people that are involved now. I think we're at a very small percentage of people in this world that even know about it. Or
absolutely.
What do you think? 10% or less?
Oh, less, way less, way less. And even those who are intelligent who do. And I work for an billionaire with a B, and lots of high net worth individuals run in that circle. And I had a conversation with one of them whom I respect greatly. And basically, I presumed that he was already way into this. If not him, he had people who were, right. And I sent him a text, and I'm like, hey man, I know you're way ahead of me on this, but do you have any experience with any exchanges? Like, do you have a preferred? Do you? And he's like, brother, he says, I don't know anything about this. It scares me. That's what he said. It scares me. And then I later learned that a primary concern is that with Bitcoin, that it is not private. So it's, somebody had explained it that, if you took a $100 bill that was minted or printed, 3 years ago, and you turned it over, imagine every person who ever touched that or it changed hands. If there was a record of every single person who was on that, then, that's not private. So, and if you can hone in on a certain public key or something and know that, oh, that's Jeran's, then you can go and see how much Bitcoin or crypto Jeran has, and that's not private. And there's a lot of high net worth people who just don't want to have that kind of exposure. Mm-hmm. And so I think they have been at bay, trying to figure it out. And plus they run in a different, circle as well, to where they're all about their investments going into new companies and equity that way. So when you have all of these smart people who, haven't been paying attention to it, smart, rich people who haven't been paying attention to it, I can very easily see there being a day, like when I hear Jeff Berwick talk about, he was talking about Bitcoin when he's the dollar vigilante, when he was talking about Bitcoin, when we were suggesting Bitcoin at $2. Mm-hmm. Well, when I hear that and I think, man, I could feel totally deflated with Bitcoin being $52,000 right now, right. But I can absolutely see a day where somebody is going to have the conversation with me and say, man, I remember 2021 first quarter, I think it was, this oddball was talking about, Bitcoin at $52,000. And I just wish I would have invested in that then, because it's trading at $1.2 million right now. And that was just 8 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So what I'm saying is that we are still very ground floor. And any of you who don't understand any of this, really, I think the next 6 months is just put your toe in the water, get some experience. If I showed you a bicycle outside and you've never ridden one, and we spend a whole lot of time in my living room talking about how to ride a bike, you're going to go out there and guess what? You're probably not going to do too well. But if you just get on the damn thing and start pedaling and figuring it out and start ugly, then you're going to be riding the bike pretty soon. So I believe that even though I'm only 5 weeks into this, I know enough now to actually buy some crypto, store it and such. I believe that over the next 6 months, I'm going to be enriched through conversations like this. Last night, I had a guy named Dan on who came from the chat, and most of the show was over my head and such. But there were some fact drops in there, or truth drops, or just info drops is the better term. That was just like, whoa. Mm-hmm. My light bulb went off and I'm like, I get it now. I get it. How many of those are we going to have over the next 6 months, just going through this journey together? We're all going to get smarter. And when we do, we're going to get to a point in time to where people are going to look at us like we're freaking pioneers. Like we were so smart to get way back in 2021 when they're printing money like crazy, and inflation will go through the roof, and what you buy for $10 today, or you buy that $5 cup of Starbucks today. Can you imagine in 4 or 5 years, that's then $100 because they've just printed so much damn money. This is the way I look at as I understand it, as a newbie, the way I look at cryptocurrency is that it's kind of the mirror of fiat. It's kind of the hedge. It's like as as fiat currency is devalued, just the nature of the beast of cryptocurrency, it's going to inversely increase in value. So if you're not there, then whatever wealth you have now, if you think you're just safe sitting on it, it's going to be devalued to the point to where it's just not going to buy what it could have. I think I saw a statistic this last week to where you could buy what you could buy back in 1931 would be something like 462 gallons of gas for $20, whereas, you know, what can you buy? How many gallons can you buy for it today? It's like 95% less the dollar is. So would you agree?
Yeah,
Disagree?
absolutely. Well, the dollar is what they've used to enslave, you know, not just this country, but the world for a long time. And once you understand how it's made and how it's all debt based and how the fractional reserve system works, you'll learn that it's a non-sustainable system, right? It's impossible to sustain that kind of system for too long. And then when you look into it and see that they've printed, you know, 40% of all money in circulation was printed in 2020. And that alone should alert people to the fact that you can't do that without having massive hyperinflation. Now, we haven't seen that yet. You know, it hasn't, you know, trickled down to the stores. Well, I do think that groceries are a lot more expensive today than they were a year ago.
Yes.
But as far as it being even more drastic, those days are coming. In fact, I've actually read a couple of things recently that says some of the coronavirus pandemic is meant to prop up the dollar for a little bit longer. That basically it was going to fall, but by kind of doing this and kind of including it in the Great Reset and kind of having this whole conversation, we got to do things different, have people work from home. It's kind of all a precursor of what's coming. And there's a lot of articles out there about the fact that the U.S. will come out with a digital dollar. It'll be pretty soon, probably. And we can get into that, you know, a little bit. That's a little more high level. But one of the things I wanted to go back to what you said is, yeah, I do look at Bitcoin as the opposite of the dollar. I do think that it's completely crafted in a new way, and that's what should be exciting about it. And then anybody who's got any issues with it the way it stands now, you know, I just want you to remember where I was, 8 years ago, in the fact that I felt the same, but I forgot about the part that, you know, everything that happens around the Bitcoin is built on innovation by people like us, right? It's anybody, since it's an open source code, anybody can go look at it and say, how do I want to implement this in something I want to create, whether it's a wallet, whether it's some sort of service, whether it's anything that you want, you can create that around it. So that's something you don't get very often. I mean, we know banks are allowed to deal with the Federal Reserve, and they can have banks and they can do loans and they can do fractional reserve, but you and I can't. We have nothing.
Right.
We can do that. So with Bitcoin, you are allowed to kind of create around it and implement new things and innovate. And that's what's so fantastic about it. So, make sure that that's not your complaint, that you think, you know, things are too difficult or whatever. And like what, Uncle Vigilante had to say here is so true, that a lot of people, it's too daunting to get into, number one, right? You've got, first of all, the price is daunting because somebody hears 52,000, they're like, it's just too much. I don't have that kind of money. And they don't really understand that you can buy, you know, tiny little fractions of it. So you can get involved if you want to, you know, start at $50 or $100, doesn't matter.
Yep.
You can get that little bit. There are some things that have gotten worse, I would say, with Bitcoin, but it's the nature of the beast. And once you understand how Bitcoin works, you would understand what happened with that. For instance, in 2013, when I was dealing with it, it was anywhere from, 2 cents to 4 cents to send any amount, right? Sometimes 10 cents, 5 cents, very cheap. Today, to send Bitcoin is like, anywhere from, $5 to $15, depending on what you're trying to send.
Right.
So the reason for that, and a lot of people think that has something to do with, the miners are making more, they're charging more. It has nothing to do with that. Bitcoin runs on a supply and demand kind of thing. So imagine that when I send a transaction, I put, I'll add a 1 cent fee. Okay, let's say that it starts out and it's just me and you, Odie, me and Uncle Odd. We have the only Bitcoin in the world. And so if we want to transmit money between each other, we could put a 1 cent fee. And because the miners are sitting there waiting for any transaction that they can to pick up, as soon as they see the transaction posted, they grab it, they take the 1 cent, they transmit it, they put it on the blockchain, you get your Bitcoin, and we're all happy. And we did that for a 1 cent fee. As more people get added to the system, and as it starts getting used more, if everybody just agreed all together, hey, we're all going to put 1 cent fees, right? Well, then the miners would only have 1 cent fees to pick it up. The problem is that people are allowed to put whatever fee they want. So somebody came along who had a little bit more money invested and just says, Well, I want my transaction to go through faster, so I'm going to put a 5-cent fee.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
when
Okay.
you do that, the miners are looking for the highest fee. As soon as they see the 5 cents fee, we'll take that one. So that gets
So
processed.
it's like a Priceline.com model almost, right?
Well, yeah, and it's not so much a model. It's just that you have to imagine the miners obviously want to get the most bang for their buck, right? So they're just computers that are looking for transactions, and so the higher fee transactions they're going to grab and they're going to pull back, and they're going to add those. So the problem becomes as time has gone on, that amount has gone higher and higher and higher and higher. More people with more money wanting to get their transactions processed faster will up that fee, and they just keep upping it. So now today, like I said, to send $100 might cost you 15. That's a little bit expensive. Now there's a lot of rumors that that'll come back down and that things will get fixed and work themselves out. But for now, the network's very congested. And so if you tried to put a 10-cent fee, if you tried to put $1 fee today, your transaction will never get picked up. It'll just stay on the blockchain and just wait for you to add more fee to it because the miners are grabbing all the higher fees and they never get to yours. It's the bottom of the barrel. So that's changed quite a bit from before. And that will get fixed, and there'll be innovation around that. A lot of people saying, oh, well, Jeran, if that's true, then you can't buy coffee with Bitcoin. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to do that. You wouldn't want to, right? If a coffee's $3, you don't want to pay 18 total by giving them a $15 fee to send that. So that's not going to work today. However, there are things that you can do. There are ways around things right now. And I think that there'll be innovation around that, right? So
And wasn't there a fork where Bitcoin Cash came in to solve for that?
Yep. And then Bitcoin SV, right. So there's always these little solvings. And that's why I think Bitcoin has changed a little bit from what it was intended to now definitely more of a store of value, right?
Okay.
So that's how I look at it now. Now, I still think innovation can come around. Somebody's going to try. Somebody told me the other day or sent me a link to articles that Visa and MasterCard are going to be adding Bitcoin. And of course, that's nothing a knock on Bitcoin. What that is Visa and MasterCard realizing Bitcoin's not going anywhere.
Right.
So they've got to get involved with it. They've got to figure out how to work it out. Same thing with PayPal, although I wouldn't trust doing anything with PayPal with their Bitcoin because I don't like the way they're doing it. Same thing with Robinhood, the app. You can buy.
Because you don't own it, right? They have the private keys.
And you can't even take it off of there. So when they only let you buy or sell, right? At least Coinbase, they own the private keys, but if you buy there and then send it to yourself, then they'll send it to you, right? So that's much different than Robinhood won't even let you send it to yourself. They'll say, well, we'll just cash you out. So all you can do is buy it with money and cash out with money. So you never actually hold the private keys, right? But anyway, moral of the story, more will be coming. And I've seen new things coming out. There's this it's like a little thumb drive looking thing that is out now. You can buy them and you can put, like, say you want to put a certain amount of Bitcoin on there and the private key is never revealed. You send it to the address that's on there and you can hand it out to friends or family or whatever. And when they punch a hole through it, when they push their finger through this little thing, then it activates the private key and now it can be used. But the idea behind that is that you can now hand it to people. They can go check the value. They can plug it in and say, okay, that's right. And they know that there's no private key that's ever been exposed because the little button's never been pushed through. As soon as you push it through, activate. So things like that are going to start popping up. And when I see that, I'm like, oh shit. I mean, when things like that start coming out where you can now hand it to somebody like cash, right?
Yes.
Bitcoin people say, oh, what do I do if this happens? What do I do if that happens? What if my phone goes down? You got all these complaints. But if you're able to just take a little thumb drive, put it in, put $1,000 on it, whatever, tell a buddy, hey, there's $1,000 on your here. See, they plug it in. Oh yeah, there's $1,000. Okay, this is for you. All right, now they have it, and they know that there's no way that money can be taken off of there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's going to be more and more things like
because ultimately that's why this show exists. It's like we need it dumbed down to a level that we'll understand it. And it's not saying we're stupid, but we need it dumbed down to a level that we'll understand it.
And the problem was at the beginning when I was writing articles and stuff, if you dumbed it down too much, the problem was that people would make mistakes and lose.
Right.
So the difference that now is that, and the reason I'm able to do consultations, and we can get into that a little bit about why I started doing that. But the reason that I think it's okay now is I no longer have a fear of like, oh, if people listen to me, they're going to lose money. And the reason why is because a lot of those things have been fixed. One of the things I recommend to everybody in my consultations is the Exodus wallet. It's a desktop wallet. It is ridiculously easy. Mm-hmm. So before, when you had to explain somebody multi-bit, or if anybody knows Bitcoin from a long time ago, they'll know what I'm talking about. If not, they won't have a clue. But multi-bit and some of these other wallets that were very clunky, very easy to do things incorrect. There wasn't a lot of safeguards in there. A lot of people had problems. A lot of people had issues. Even the Electrum wallet is a little bit more high level and more difficult than most would like. But now I'm at a place now where, just like you said, I think people, to really understand it, need to jump in, right? You can
Yeah.
listen to talk all you want. So what I wanted to offer is, I said, within a half hour, I could at least help people that have already know Bitcoin at some point, but have some questions. So I said, I'll offer a half hour consultation. And then I said, I'll offer an hour, and an hour would be for, a newbie. And by the end of the hour, they'll understand it. They'll have a wallet. They'll know how to buy it. They'll know how to send it. They'll know how to receive. And then I also offer a 2 hour. And at the end of 2 hours, same thing. You'll know how to do all those things. And you'll also understand the blockchain. You'll be able to ask me questions about other coins, how they work, which ones I think are better, and how to transact or store, safely. So when I came up with that idea, I said, let me offer it to my patrons, because those are people that I know trust me. And that's a big step, because when I started in 2013, there was nobody to talk to. So I had to learn everything from the ground up, right? There's nobody I felt safe in saying, hey, what do I do with this? Or it was tough. You had to be in forums, and in forums, there's always scam artists trying to tell you something, right? Trying to steal your money. So it was just a little bit more difficult than it is now, or at least for me. If there was somebody who ever came out who I trusted and said, okay, I've been watching this guy on YouTube for 6 years, clearly not having a consultation so that he can try and do something weird. I mean, it would be kind of obvious. And the fact that I tell everybody, you don't have to give me I don't want any of your information during the consultation. I mean, I might tell you, go to this website, download this, do that, but I don't want to know anything about you. I don't want to know your private keys, your passwords, your ID. I don't need any of that stuff. You might, but I don't. So anyway, I just figured that I can have these consultations. People can get involved. And really, it started with just doing 2. And it was 2 people who reached out to me that were patrons and said, hey, can you help me for an hour or 2 hours? How much would I have to pay? I said, well, you've been a patron for a while. I'll just do it, and you can tip me whatever you want, right? So I did that with 2 different people, and they both were like, oh my God, night and day difference between what I thought I knew and how scared I was before, into, after an hour or 2 talking to you, how much different I feel. Right. And now I understand. Now I can transact in it. Now I can buy more. Now I feel like I know what's going on. So they said, why don't you offer this to, all your patrons? And I said, well, I don't know how many would be interested, but I'll go ahead and do that. So, I set it up a post on Patreon and said, hey, if anybody's interested, I don't know what to charge for this. So I said, so if you're interested, sign up, and you can just tip me whatever you want. So all of a sudden I got inundated. I mean, just to the point where I had to go to my website and create like a scheduling tool, because I thought people were just going to message me and I'd be like writing it down. But all of a sudden I'm getting 10, 20 messages. Great. Oh, shit. So I created a page on my website where people could go and they could book it. And this way it keeps a little calendar, and I'm able to put what days I'm available. And so far I've done over 40 and still have about less than 10 scheduled. And so at that point I said, okay, well, maybe now I can open it up a little bit, just to see if people outside of that patron group are interested. Maybe they won't. Maybe people have never heard of me, never seen me, and they're like, well, what's different between you and, some guy on the internet? Although, if you go looking for crypto consultations, I've seen most prices range from $300 an hour to, $600 an hour. Well, I'm certainly not that expensive. So would
you mind sharing your rates? That was asked in the chat.
Yes, I will. Can I share my screen? Let me see if I can.
Please. And by the way, this is just music to my ears. I mean, I feel like I know enough to be dangerous, but I don't feel like I know enough to be truly comfortable. I don't feel like I'm that person who spent, an hour or 2 with you, who gets off the phone or the consultation and says, oh, now I get it all. So I'm going to hit you up.
Do you see my website right now? No,
I do.
Okay. So up on my website is up in the menu is crypto, and you can also go jeranism.com/crypto. And this top button is for a consultation here. And so it basically just lays out, I kind of give a little overview of, and then like I said, so there's 3 different, time slots, very easy to pick one. 1 hour consultation. This is so easy because it does know your time zone. So it kind of, so you'll see open dates available. So if you wanted Saturday the 27th, and then there's different time slots, and you pick one, and that's basically it. Put in this.
That's awesome.
So very simple. And then that sends me an email. I confirm with you. This talks about duration. And so the cost, like I said, for me right now, what I have is for the half hour for 30, an hour for 50, and 2 hours for 90, and then 40 hours thereafter. And that's just, very cheap compared to, I even put some links here.
Let me tell you, having gone through just trial and error and just the fear of loss, meaning what if I do this wrong, and how much agita that I have felt over the last month. this, if I started here, if I started with a 2-hour consultation, I'm just telling you that is not an expense, period. End of story. That's an investment in your sanity. And I've known you for lots of years. I mean, not on a personal level, but I have, known of you and have enjoyed your content for lots and lots of years. And so you would be that person that I would say, yeah, that I trust him entirely, because you are what you get. You're very credible.
Somebody doesn't even want to pay that much. I mean, a lot of people know that if you become a patron, then you don't have to pay those fees ahead of time. You just get to tip me whatever. So that's another thing that's a possibility. And Patreon is, I think, the minimum is $5 a month. So you can sign up for that, pay $5 a month, and then tip me whatever you want.
Where on your site can you show them how to become a patron member?
Yeah, so there's lots of ways, but you can click.
Oh, there's right there.
And this will, there's patron only videos, all the money, but none of this will work if you try and click. Oh, it might work right now because I'm under my account, so it's going to work for me.
Right. Sure.
It wouldn't let you go there, but it does tell you here if you're not a patron, to go ahead and click here. And
yep.
And you're able to. Okay, I got to figure out why that's what. I don't know. Patreon here. Oh, here. Okay. I just got to change that link. This one here goes to my Patreon. There you go. And you'll be able to sign up there. So anyway, people started signing up for those and they really enjoyed them. This thing talks about, and these prices I just came up with just because I said, that's worth my time. And yeah. I don't have a problem doing that. I asked why Jeran, and I just told people, because you can trust me, I have no desire to steal from anybody in any way. So, I talk about the importance of security, that, I'll never ask to see your private keys, seed words. In fact, I'll do a majority of the talk will be about how important those are and how you can lose everything by giving those away accidentally. Mm-hmm. So I really focus on that part because I'm covering my butt. What I mean by that is I don't want anybody to ever come back to me and say, I lost money because this happened that you said, right? Absolutely. So I'm very clear about safety, security first. How do we keep this very safe and secure? And then from there, I kind of introduce some things that I know nobody can possibly get wrong. And, sending, receiving, you would have to make some drastic mistake. I talk about here some things you may need, but I tell you flat out that I will never need any of this. I'm just saying to sign up at Coinbase, it's no different than if you go to Wells Fargo. It's a KYC. They have to know who you are. So you can't buy Bitcoin from Coinbase without them knowing your ID, that kind of thing. But we can, in those consultations, many people have questions for me that I may not talk about here on the show. But, how to keep it a little more private if you want, or how to kind of maybe have some other options, right?
Yes.
And then here, were things I can help with. I just laid out, things as I thought in my head of all the different things. So if you go to this, again, it's jeranism.com/crypto. You'll read through this and, in a matter of 2 hours, we'll cover basically all of these topics. You'll be able to know, you would be able to answer on a test, you'd be able to get them all right. The only thing that's come up a few times that I've had to tell people, I can't do that, is some people have wanted to talk about trading, and I think it's called arbitrage. Is that the right pronunciation of it?
Yep.
And I just said, I know what they are. I know how to do them, but I've never done it because I don't have the money. Like I said, I have to worry about what I'm going to do.
Right. Sure.
So I don't have money to be playing the market or buying these altcoins and trading like that. I don't have that. So I could probably explain to you how it works or what people are doing and how you could buy from one site when it's at a certain price and go quickly sell at another site and make the difference. But I've never done it, so it's not a very that's not one of the topics that we really discuss. Mostly,
and I would say the people who are going to watch this video, gotcha. I hope it's the people who are watching this video are the ones who just want to safely.
Good.
And I use the $1,000 all the time. Help me get $1,000 of fiat currency into an offline cold storage wallet. I can just show you right here. I have a fireproof bag.
Nice.
Right. In this fireproof bag, I have a notebook that has all of my keywords and stuff. So it's on paper so that if I get hit by a bus, my family knows what to do. And then there's this little guy. Sorry, I didn't know I was going to pull this out, but this is a Trezor offline cold storage wallet. So right here, when I showed you that Blockfolio, without this, that Blockfolio app doesn't mean squat. if I lose this, if I lose the keywords, if I don't somehow, if I get hit by a bus, let my family know how to access this, then it's gone. It's gone. And so that's where an ounce of prevention is worth a lot of heartache later, which is why someone like Jeran and his service, I can't express enough how it's an investment and not an expense, and highly recommend it. Can you
do is I should do one with you just so you can tell people after that, what you thought of it. So, just you and I
let's do it.
Yes. I'll have you sign up and you can, sign up and then we'll go from there. So sign up for a time that works for you. We'll do it privately. And then after that, you can do a show and tell people, hey, here's what I didn't know before. And what I know now. So I think it's good. And I have also, you can reach out to some of my patrons. I don't know how, I don't want to give any of their names away. Some of them have come on shows so far and said, hey, I did do one with Jeran. Here's what I learned. Here's what I didn't. So one thing I do want to point out about,
can I say one thing? Just because this actually, David Weiss had given me this heads up that, and I haven't done it on here, but I saw someone in the chat that said, buy Axiom. And it just triggered me in that may be somebody who but also at the same time, if you do anything crypto, it attracts bots. From what I understand in the comments. So I'm going to ask anybody in the YouTube chat, please, if there's anybody in there that's telling you to do anything or that this is gold or what, we're never going to ask you for anything. And my disclosure is, while we never give investment advice because that would be unwise, I can say that 3 out of 4 people who subscribe to this channel will make up 75% of the people guaranteed to become smarter, prettier, more handsome, and way more popular. I can tell you, simply for becoming an Uncle Vigilante aficionado. But how cool is that? That is my disclosure. Don't trust anybody in the chat because I don't know if they're a bot. So forgive me, whoever put in there, buy Axiom. You may be a real person, nothing against you, but I'm just trying to protect everyone. Beware of bots.
Well, let's remember too, anybody who's telling you to buy some coin just to start out, may be interested in it going up, may have a financial interest in getting people right. It's like a pump and dump, right? Which I fell for one time. I've had it. What happened one time in my life, didn't know anything about stocks. I don't know why I followed some email that was like, here's a secret. This stock is going to go up, whatever. And I showed my wife and we both looked into it. Like, this looks really good. I forgot how much we put in. I think $1,100 or something. And we bought this stock and, within 3 days it had dropped to like a penny and, basically had lost almost all of it. Like, this is like in 2012, 2013. It's like, holy smokes. And then you find out that that's what it was. It was a bunch of people who owned it. You pump it so that the price goes up, 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 up. When it gets to the top, they all sell, knowing that there's, a price point they want to sell it. And then everybody who bought on the way up gets stuck with stock that's no longer worth anything. So you just got to be careful with that. Also, real quick, I'm just going to show one thing because I find it important. So this is another thing for people if this is their first time. You have to remember, just because you're in Bitcoin and once you learn how to do it, you're going to find a lot of sites like this one on the internet. This is called plusfund.biz. Okay. It is, and I don't care who you talk to, and they say, oh no, I did get my money, whatever. This is 100% a scam. This is meant to steal your money. Anytime you see something like this, you need to recognize that this is impossible. It's fake. It's nonsense. This says 6,000% after 12 days. Okay. So, so watch this. You can go down here to this little calculator and it says, oh, profit calculator. Okay. So let's go to the 6,000% profit after 12 days. And we say, what amount do we want? Let's say we have $1,000, right? So me and so we'll have $60,000 at the end of 12 days, according to this. So this is done in a way that is so enticing to greedy people, or it's so enticing to even those that are like, you know what, maybe it's worth it. Maybe I'll try it, right? And there's little tricks that these sites do. One of the tricks will be somebody maybe doesn't want to put this in at first. They'll say, what's the lower one? 300% profit after 1 day. So they'll put in, okay, let me just start with $100. So they're like, okay, I'll have $300 after 1 day. So they'll deposit Bitcoin into this account. It will, after 1 day, it'll show you on the screen that you have $300. Now, here's the problem. If you try and withdraw that, you'll never get it. Okay. They'll just won't ever answer you. It's gone. They've stolen your money. But what most people do is when they see that show in their account that now they're up to 300, they're like, oh, then I'll do it. And then they deposit the rest. Right. So this is a complete and total scam. These are everywhere. They're called HYIPs. You just need to be smart enough to recognize when something is too good to be true. The same is true for money. The same is true for Bitcoin. Okay. There's no sites out there that say, give us, what did we say it was, $1,000, and in 12 days, we'll give you 60,000. Okay. Doesn't happen.
Annualize that return. I can't even do the math in my head.
No.
That's after 12 days.
Yeah.
What if you just left it in there a year?
Right. And then people even will say, oh, well, I know somebody who got money. If anybody gets paid on these, just so you know, then it means that you're stealing from the people behind you. Okay. So what that means is what you would do is you have somebody who says, I want 300% profit in one day. So they put in 100. If they do get out 300, it's because they're taking money from people that have come after you. That's how pyramid schemes, how Ponzi schemes work, right? So if you want to do that and you want to take a chance with your $100 to see if it gets stolen or not, go ahead. But just know that if you do make a profit, that profit you've stolen from.
I'm pretty sure that $100 would have been more wisely invested in
everything.
2 hours of consultancy with you.
Absolutely. So anyway, this is kind of the thing that I just want people to be aware that once you get into Bitcoin, you're going to see a lot of things that are like, oh, is that true? Is that, even these little, and I don't want to mention people's names, but there's even people in the conspiracy, kind of community that I've seen start to promote certain programs or, cash things where they're like, oh, I'm making this kind of percent. Again, just always, I guess you want to call it buyer beware. I don't recommend any of those things. I don't think that, I don't think that they're real. Anything that's out of the world, those things would exist. If they existed, then everybody would be involved in them, right? If you could turn $1,000 into 60,000 in 12 days, why wouldn't everybody in the world be dumping every penny they ever had into that system, right? So of course, just be careful on those things. And sorry, I guess people.
Hey, in the chat, do you have anyone in there? Because they're all new to me. Anyone in there that you're like, I trust them, that I can add as a moderator just in case they see any trash that comes in?
See, I don't know why I don't see a chat here. Let me refresh.
Jason L. There's the Plain Truth.
Plain Truth. Jeremy's good. Critical Inception's good. Wander of the Zone is good. I mean, these people at least will be able to kick anybody out if they're bastards, Okay. So anyway, getting back to, so safety, security is a big thing. Knowing how to be secure, like, OD, or like Odd just said with his, fireproof bag and his, sticks. And there's lots of ways to do paper wallets. And I saw you guys talking yesterday. I know you were new to the idea of putting like a, Ubuntu or one of these operating systems on a thumb drive, right? And then generating cold storage wallets offline. So that's something I've done since 2013, which I can help people with. Anyway, best way to look at all the things would be, like I said, jeranism.com/crypto, and take a look. And if you're not interested, then you can, don't worry about it. But I think that more people than I ever expected have been interested in it and feel like it's such a turnaround from before versus after. So that, that's a good way to get started. Like I said, by the end of that, you'll be able to have a wallet, you'll be able to have Bitcoin. And I agree with you. Once you get to, 1,000 or more dollars, then you might want to start worrying about, how do I put this in some sort of cold storage? I feel safe with the Exodus wallet that you'd be able to keep money there and not have anything to worry about.
Well, let me tell you a quick story about the Exodus wallet. A friend of mine, the person who suggested that I buy XRP, which I know somebody in the chat said stay away from it, but I have, because that my investment was so heavily weighted there because I didn't know any different or better. I have been paying very close attention, and I do think this SEC lawsuit is frivolous, and I believe that they will settle. And when they do, I think that, it's trading right now, I think around, let's see, it's trading at 54 cents. So it had gotten up to 61 cents when the Wall Street bets people decided to pump and dump it. So that was a case in point to where exactly what you said, they all rallied at 8:30 a.m. on this specific day. They pumped it, and then indeed they dumped it really fast. So, but it didn't bounce back down to 28 cents. But because it was so heavily weighted, I've been paying attention to that. Where was I going with that comment about, what were we talking about? I'm sorry, I totally lost my train of thought.
You went into, I don't know why you went there.
What were you talking about before? You were talking about
Just
uh,
the consultation
oh,
before and after. Okay.
yesterday. Yeah.
Oh.
Yesterday we were talking about God, I'm sorry. We're going to just go right through. I totally
No problem.
went right over my mask.
Right. Yes. Yeah, no problem at all. One thing that you said, earlier, or you mentioned earlier, and I think this is so true, and this is why I think it's important, is if you have some sort of possession around your house, or you've got some sort of backup money or something, I just want people to really think about what you're doing with that. What I mean by that is, if you put $100 under your bed, there is 0% chance, and I mean zero, that value increases in time. That $100 will be worth less the next day. It'll be worth less the next year, and in 10 years, it's going to be worth very, very little. So I think a lot of people do probably keep cash around their house, or they have sort of way that they save cash. I just think with the way the dollar's going, there's a lot of better options. I'm not saying put everything in it. Never would you ever do that. And anything you put in it, you can consider, I like to consider it loss, at least for myself. It makes things better for me. But just, pointing out that saving money is probably not the smartest thing right now, especially when, like you just said, and I forgot what the exact amount is, but it's something like the money supply doubles 8 times or 10 times in your lifetime. And that number's changed as of 2020. Now going forward, it might double every 2 years instead of every 10 years. Simply because they printed 40% of all money in circulation in 2020, and they might keep doing that. So you're going to see hyperinflation. You're going to see your $100 that's under your bed worth nothing in a matter of time. There are ways to protect that. If I had some, I don't have anything, but let's say I've got some baseball in my house that's signed by Babe Ruth or something, and it's $50,000. Now would be the time that I would look into selling that. That's me. That I think you have a better return. Now, again, it could be this, priceless heirloom that your father gave you. I get that. I'm just saying there's a lot of people who might have something that they've just always sat on, and they're like, oh, we know that that's worth money. But that baseball is probably not going to buy you a house in 20 years, at least to me.
Right.
Right. So whereas $50,000 invested into Bitcoin, I do think there's a chance, and I'll explain why, and we can, this is very beginner, but I mean, people need to recognize that there's only 21 million Bitcoins ever. Okay.
Hey, before you go down that path, I just wanted to finish. Somebody helped me. Jose helped me remember Exodus. I was thinking about Exodus and XRP. The guy who suggested I get into XRP, he has about I think 3 times more XRP than I had, and so we've been going back and forth. And when it went up to 61 cents, we were having a Telegram chat like, yeah, this is awesome, And then I got the most heartbreaking text from him that said that he, in his Exodus wallet, it was, all of it was ripped off, totally gone, every bit of it. Now, that doesn't mean that it was the Exodus wallet problem. It was just coincidental that it was an Exodus wallet. What it was this guy, he's a researcher like you, right? Downloads so much shit. And at some point in time, somebody put something on his computer that was a keystroke. That's why 101 in getting started, right? You want to be able to make sure that your computer is totally free of any kind of malware. And because imagine if you visited a website a year ago and these guys are patient bastards and they just dropped something in, and then all of a sudden they're starting to see that you're going to Coinbase and Exodus and you're downloading the wallet. All of a sudden that triggers them, and they go in and they capture your keystrokes when you're making your keys and all that stuff. That's what happened to him. He lost it all. It was so heartbreaking because he said he was one of these guys that got in early, and he was mining, and he put everything that he had into this. And he was betting it all on XRP, and it's gone. It just breaks my heart,
Breaks my heart too, but I will say this, and anybody who goes through my consultation will tell you this, and I believe it to be true, that what you just described is not possible unless he did something foolish. And what I mean by that is ever copy your seed words or display your private keys on the screen. The keylogger would not be able to do anything because let's say you have your Exodus wallet, right? And you're sending and receiving coins. If you never press the button that says, display private keys, well, then they've never been displayed. So any keylogger is never going to pick up a private key. In the Exodus wallet, you're going to send to certain addresses. You're going to receive to certain addresses. It's impossible for a keylogger to have done anything with that. So keylogging would be back in the day where you used to have to do a lot of private keys and copying. And keylogger is definitely going to pick up those. Also, there are some programs that will look at your clipboard, right? So the way I teach people is that you can copy and paste and copy addresses all day long. And I explain to people why on Exodus's wallet, I don't ever see a reason to ever hit show private keys unless you really need to, which you really shouldn't need to, or unless I'm going to turn my computer off and restart it without the internet connected. So kind of what you described, there's something else involved there.
Yeah.
When we tell people, and I go through this in very close detail, is that when you start the Exodus wallet, it displays on the screen for you as you mouse over each one the seed words, and you are meant to write those down on paper.
Yep.
Never ever type those in anywhere ever.
Right.
So some people will just hear that and they'll still copy paste them or type them on a notepad. Well, as soon as you type them on a notepad, well, of course, a keylogger picks that up, right? Keylogger would know exactly what you're typing on a notepad. So this is why they're told not to do that. Same thing people say, don't take a photo of it with your phone. Many people are saying, but what's the big deal? Well, we don't know who's intercepting iCloud photos that are auto-uploaded to the cloud, right? And things like that. Nowadays, people everywhere are going to know if you ever see a group of 12 words or 24 words sitting on somebody's shelf, sitting on a desk, that people are going to start catching on to what those might be.
Right.
I was showing my sister, I gave her some Bitcoin and kind of talked her through it, told her about the seed word and how to be careful with this and that. And then the next time she came over by my house, she was like, oh, look what I did is I put this on my Google Drive. And she showed me like a list of, it was like a poem that she wrote that had 12 lines. And then she's like, I just put the words there at the end of every line. I'm like, do not do that.
Okay.
I'm like, I said, for me, if I ever saw a poem and it had 12 lines, the first thing I'm going to think is, oh, I wonder if that's somebody trying to hide their, right? And then if I was in the first place, I'm going to look is the last word. And I said, plus people know what words are part of those lists, right? So, I mean, you don't want to give people help like that. She's like, well, what if I made it 14 words? What if or 14 lines? I'm like, I don't know why you need to feel like you need to have this on your Google Drive. I said, this is the problem. People, they get too ahead of themselves and they don't realize there's a lot of things out there that you've never noticed before. Maybe people that can see different things because there's nothing really important and things aren't encrypted. So anyway, it's just one of those stories where you want to be careful about that. I feel totally bad for that guy, but there is ways that you can transact safe, that you can open your wallet safely, that even if there's a keylogger, you should be fine.
Okay.
And then always running your antivirus software. You always want to make sure of doing that. But again, I don't know what he did, but I'm sure if we talked to him, there would be something that came out. One of the consultations I did, and I would never give this person's name away, but I did a consultation with them a whole hour, right? We went through everything, told them, okay, private, don't do that. Okay. So the following 2-3 days after, this person contacts me and says, I'm having problems. I'm not being able to find this transaction, this money. I'm looking for it. So I said, okay, we'll get on the call. I'll help you out. So I'm looking through and they're like flipping out because I don't know where this is. And then they said, let me open and then I hear like the desk slam and they're all pissed off. I'm like, what? And they're like, everything on my ledger is gone. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, everything on my ledger Nano has been stolen. I'm like, no, it hasn't. I'm like, hold on. I'm like, did you plug your Nano into the computer today? They're like, no. I said, then you're fine. The money's all there. Don't worry. And then they're like, okay. And I said, unless you gave your seed words away. And they're like, oh, I did do that. I'm like, what? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, oh man, I feel so stupid now. And they went through this whole story where basically they were having some problem with some wallet and they went to Telegram to some, basically a support group, and somebody like messaged them privately on Telegram and said, hey, I'm with support. What's going on? And they said, oh, this is what's happening with my wallet. And the person said, oh, it just needs to be reset. It just needs to, be resynced. So if you give us the seed words, we'll resync it. So they gave him those seed words. Now here's the even worse part. As I said, yeah, but that's not your ledger. How did you? And then they said, well, then the person who did the consult asked the person, says, oh, this has nothing to do with my ledger. And of course the thief said, oh no, it does. We need those seed words as well. And so they handed him right over. So, that is actually, they didn't lose a lot, but it's one of those things where that person will never do that again. And from that story, I was able to basically bring that up in my shows and bring it up in my consultations to give an example of when we say don't give your seed words to anybody, we mean anybody. It doesn't matter if it's some guy who claims to be support. Doesn't matter if some guy calls you on the phone and says they're with Exodus Wallet. Doesn't matter if it's somebody who says their letter, you would never, ever give those seed words to anyone because it's the equivalent of them being you, right? So just like you can use your seed words to generate that wallet anywhere, any place in the world at any time, so can anybody else. And so the second you give those words, they're going to run to their computer, download Exodus Wallet, punch them in, and they've got all access to your funds, and they're going to immediately send it to themselves. So these are things that a lot of us had to learn the hard way in the past, right? Finding a website. I saw one the other day. There's a website out there, something.wallet. I can't remember the name of it. But you go there and it just says, oh, having trouble with one of your wallets, enter your seed words here to recapture, to resync. And it's just a box asking for seed words. And people will go to that website. And because they're having issues and they don't know who to turn to, they'll go there and they'll say, oh, this must fix my, and they'll pump in their seed words and their money's gone. So this is why it's so different than banking as we know it. Chances you usually aren't going to get punished for losing money in some sort of out of your bank because they'll usually get it back for you, right? If you buy something that's a scam with a credit card, you usually get it back. PayPal does those kind of PayPal protections. But with Bitcoin, you are your own bank. There is no person to help you out, right? So anyway, it is something that I cover, closely because it's important to me to not have somebody. And luckily, I said to this person that lost it. I'm like, "Do you remember me yesterday saying?" And she's like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Yes," over and over again. They're like, "Yes, yes, yes." It's not you. They said, but they're like, I thought you meant that the seed words were for recovering your wallet, And I said, "Yeah, it is what they're for." But I mean, do you remember me telling you don't give them? Well, I thought this person was worked for that company.
I have somebody that I know and in this truther realm, who I heard him having a conversation with Ab on a podcast saying that there was this cool new website. I think he said website where you could encode your keywords into a photo. Yeah. And my mind immediately went to, why on earth would you ever type your words into anything, even if it embedded them into a photo? To me, that just reeked a scam to high heaven. But
it's so easy that you and I mean, people don't realize I could buy a domain right now for 99 cents on GoDaddy. Yeah. And within the end of the day, I would be able to create a website that would tell you anything. That enter your seed words here and I'll turn it into this. And the whole point of the site is simply to get you to type your seed words into that site. That's it. Right. Someone's sitting on the other end. And they're sitting there waiting. And the second and believe me, it's definitely profitable for them because somebody is an idiot and somebody will go do it. And it doesn't matter if it's $100 or $500. Somebody's going to be sitting on the other end. As soon as they see those seed words, they punch them right in. So sure, will it embed it into a photo? Sure. But then a week later, when you go to, do it, money will be gone. So yeah, you'll see a ton of those sites. And that's what people just need to really be aware of.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when people break through the fear of loss because they're educated, that's when they're going to be able to really, really leverage and take advantage. The other thing that I would say,
I have 0% fear of losing my money. Zero. Okay. I don't have any, once they've been, once they're moved to a cold storage, if you do it right, I have zero fear of. Now my Exodus wallet that's on my computer, I wouldn't keep more than $1,000 on there just because it's kind of, I almost look at it like your wallet. I just wouldn't walk around town with $1,000 in cash in my wallet.
Right.
You never know when you're going to get jumped. And, so I don't want that to be the end of the world. Like, oh, I've just had everything I had stolen out of my wallet. Well, no, you wouldn't walk around like that. So it's the same thing with any kind of, I'm even talking about wallets on your computer. And then you just really want to be smarter than that and not ever have it come down to that. So totally agree with you, but there is ways to make sure that you're very safe. And that's kind of what a consultation will do as well. At the end of it, you'll at least feel like, okay, and if I do that, everything's safe. Yeah. And now I'm not you, so I can't make sure that you don't give your seed words out. I'll never give my seed words out. Nobody will ever know what they are. Nobody will ever know where they're hidden. And so, it's pretty, I feel safe about that. By the way, I will give some, ideas too. There's ways that you can keep your seed words. Of course, many people hear me say, write them on paper. And they're like, well, I don't want to, that doesn't seem very safe. And there's things online, Amazon and things like that, little etch pads and little punch dot things that are very expensive. What I did is I have a Dremel. I don't know if you guys have a Dremel. It's an engraver, I think it cost me $25 back in the day.
Okay.
I went to Home Depot and bought little metal plates. They're about 3x5. They look like light switch covers, but they're just, right. And I just engraved the words onto that metal plate. The reason I did
stop right there. Yeah. Stop right there. That because I bought it's called a billfodl, BILFODL, along with my Treasure T. And that basically gave me their engraved letters and numbers, and it's a way for me to be able to keep my words to where even if there was a fire, they would. But that was so damn expensive, and I'm thinking if I had multiple wallets, I mean that's only good for one wallet. And so what you just said was would offset just the savings of going to Home Depot and doing as you suggest. I think it's brilliant, you know. You've just saved them the cost of a consultation just with that suggestion. I'm sure where you have that suggestion, you have others.
Right. And then you can do the same thing, flip it on its back and do the words over there. And you're writing them down. And there's things that people don't realize about the seed words. Really, you don't even need to write the seed words, believe it or not. You could actually put them as numbers. I know it sounds crazy, but the words that are used are out of a dictionary of 2,048 words, right? And those 2,048 words, none of them start with the same first letters. So really, you only need to write down the first 4 letters of every word. So a lot of things that, but the fact that they're all numbered means that you could go to this dictionary online and look through and say, okay, what's number, my word is dog, and that's number 47. So you could just put 047, right? And then in the future, you'd always be able to find that. Let's say and then you would be able to so again, it's not like, maybe people are like, I don't want to engrave long words. Well, you can transform to numbers and it would only be a 4-digit number. So your first line would say 0047, then 1743, then 1296, right?
Wow.
That would be your thing. So anyway, yeah, those things, when I saw how expensive they were, they're ridiculous. And those people were just taking advantage of you. And like you said, it only works for one, right? So as I started with more and more of these seed words, that's when I went and bought about 6 of these metal plates. And whenever I need to, I just engrave.
So smart.
Dremel tool. So again, that means that if you have a Dremel, which most people have some sort of Dremel like that, you're talking about $1.99 per little metal plate. And I even tested it. I put it in a fire because I wanted to see. So I engraved some things on it. Put it in a fire, let it sit there for 5-6 minutes, and then looked at it and wiped it off, and you can still see the words easily. So that's much better because paper. Well, there's a problem with that, right? You never know how that deteriorates over time.
Sure.
Fire, flood.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You want to make sure that those aren't your only ways of doing that. But anyway, you can be safe with those things. You can feel secure once you know what you're doing. Great.
I noticed in a comment, not so good at trolling, said cool lamp. I just want to share a story, and you'll appreciate this, Jeran.
Yes.
Is that, when this Zoom thing started to be a thing, and for my business, I was sitting here, I'm dealing with all of these executives all over the country and recognizing that everybody looks like shit because nobody was used to Zoom and the lighting was all horrible and everything. And so I decided, the least I can do being a sales guy, right, is figure out how I can be lit and have it look good. So I bought these 2 panels behind me that are all the way to the ceiling.
You're wondering why my lighting looks like shit and his looks so great. That's why.
Well, these 2 panels right here, you can see if I move over, there's that. But I got them at Lowe's and just put them behind me, and I hammered them up and everything. But I will let you know that I have been outed as a mason because of my brick wall. So, don't trust anything I say because I'm one of the bad guys. My lamp, and somebody told me something about this. It's something that and Uncle Odd in gematria comes up to something that I'm just one of the bad guys.
If you haven't been accused of being a shill or being a mason, then you're not doing it right. That's the same thing. They'll put in every possible combination of your name until something equals some weird number, and then they'll have to do a video on it. I remember one time the dumbest thing I ever saw, the FE core group. Somebody did a video about how all the FE core members added up to some certain number in gematria, but the way that they be one person's just their last name, and then the next person would be like first name, middle initial, last name. Then the next person would be first name, middle name, last name. Like, what are you doing? You're just plugging in different versions of our names until one of them equals. Like, at least if everybody's first and last name, maybe I'd see
they should just refocus and become Bitcoin miners. At least they could get paid for their
Really.
for their math.
Put everything on it as far as that stuff goes. But anyway, yeah, from a very basics standpoint, you should understand where Bitcoin came from, why it's different than money, what's better about it, and what's so bad about the dollar. Because a lot of people look at it and they don't realize that I don't know, you've probably heard this a lot, but a lot of people saying, I don't want to get into Bitcoin because Bitcoin is not, it's based off nothing. There's nothing backing it. There's nothing behind it. And you have to ask them, well, what do you think is backing your $100 bill?
Right.
Well, everybody knows it's worth $100. I'm like, okay, well, Bitcoin is the same. So right now, today, everybody knows Bitcoin's worth $51,000.
Right.
So there is no difference as far as it being backed by nothing. And in fact, backed by this idea of trust. Well, the trust behind the Bitcoin is a lot stronger, or people are starting to get that way, than the dollar. And the fact that everybody you talk to says the dollar will eventually crash. Everybody knows that. And so the trust isn't quite as much as you think it is. And if you look over time, everything that's happened with the dollar, the value, I mean, you used to be able to buy a loaf of bread for, 5 cents, and look at it now. Now it's $4. So it won't be any different. Just like that change, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, okay, well, it's going to be $1,000 for a loaf of bread. So, people need to recognize that and see what Bitcoin does so differently. And real quick, just because I hear a lot of people talk about it being compared to gold, and I just want to point out why I think Bitcoin is so much better than gold. Numerous reasons, but number one would be that you can't counterfeit Bitcoin. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but when I used to deal with my online bookstore and buying and selling things, and we dealt with coins, I didn't realize there was such a market out there for fake gold and silver.
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, you can buy it. It's very, very cheap. Ridiculous. And it comes in the same case. It comes in the same, like a say case. It looks real.
Wow.
It's that mix on it. It's very easy for people in China and things like that to counterfeit gold. Now, somebody who actually takes it out and weighs it or something like that is going to be able to determine that it's not what it's supposed to be. Because the most that they can use is lead, right? So gold is obviously the heaviest of the metals, but they try and, they'll try and make it at least close. But there's a lot of counterfeit gold out there, to the point where this is why you can't go to the store and pay with gold, right? Because nobody at the grocery store is going to take the gold and rub it on. I don't know if you know how to test gold, but they have a test kit. You got to do all these different little, what is it called? Like acid. You put the acid on it and see if it dissolves or not. So there's like all these different tests. But anyway, it's easy to counterfeit gold. So that's why you can't just go to the store and use it. The other thing is I don't know how much gold is out there. I don't know if you've heard, but a lot of people don't even know if there's gold at Fort Knox, right? They haven't allowed an audit there since I think the 80s or 70s. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we don't know the total quantity of gold makes it a little bit hard to ever place a value on it and what you're really getting when you buy a little bit, right? Meaning you don't know and are they going to dig more tomorrow? Are they going to find a big mecca somewhere in Canada where they're mining? Who knows? But we don't know how much China has. We don't know how much is in Fort Knox. We don't know how much the United States has. So that makes it a very unknown quantity. Gold is also very hard to travel with. Let's say you've got a big amount of gold and you're fleeing the country. Well, you're not going to get very far until they realize that you have gold on you, especially going through metal detectors and things like that. So that's another problem with gold. And then, on top of that, like I said, the mining, they can always mine for more. So when you look at Bitcoin, there's a total difference there. Bitcoin can be used, and it may be difficult right now until it gets picked up. But I mean, you can go to the grocery store and pay with it. Right now, the grocery store probably doesn't accept it, but you can go online. I forgot the name of the site, GYFT, I think. You can buy gift cards of all types with Bitcoin.
Can I just share with you something about gift?
Sure.
This is Uncle Odd raising his hand and saying, I'm one smart mofo. You know why?
What'd you do?
There's a guy, his name is CJ McDonald.
Okay.
And Uncle Odd, when CJ McDonald came to our company and put in his application, I hired him. And he was the best sales guy that I have ever employed. And was a stud. Well, anyway, he left and ultimately he went on and started doing some entrepreneurial things. And then he founded a company called Gift, GYFT.
Right.
So he later ended up selling that company for lots and lots and lots of millions of dollars. And He's just one of my best friends today. But Gift, he's the one that so many years ago said, Toddy, you gotta start investing in Bitcoin.
Oh man.
Did I listen to him? No, that was when it was about $800.
Right. And we all wish we'd go back to this. It's like a buddy I talked to the other day was, telling me, he's like, dude, I should have listened to you, man. Remember when you were talking about Bitcoin, 7 8 years ago? He's like, oh, talking to me about it and just so upset. And I said, so what have you put into it? Now nothing still. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? If you just realize, it's like, you're going to be thinking the same thing 8 years from now, But yeah, with a site like Gift that allows you to buy gift cards with Bitcoin, you can buy a Safeway gift card or a whatever, Albertsons, Lucky's, whatever you use in your area, and you can go pay with Bitcoin. Now, what I'm saying there is that's why, number one, Bitcoin's better than gold in that. Number two, we know exactly how many Bitcoins are out there versus gold that you don't know. We know that the mining schedule. We know exactly when these coins are going to be released all the way through 2140, when the 21 millionth coin will be mined.
Wow.
That's another thing. The other thing is that imagine this scenario, and let's just go crazy here. Let's say I've got a bunch of finances on my my Exodus wallet, and I know my seed words. I've got them written down or whatever. And I need to flee. I need to get away from this country. I need to go somewhere. So I have my seed words. I can shut down my computer. I can light my house on fire. I can take off. I can go anywhere in the world with a piece of paper with some words on it. And when I get to wherever I'm going, Singapore, China, wherever, I just need to get to a computer, download Exodus Wallet, put my words back in, and all my finances are right in front of me. That is, if you can't recognize a groundbreaking thing, as it is right now, I don't know if people know, I've been stopped from using PayPal. PayPal, deleted my account due to not liking the content on my website or something. So right now, you're in a very centralized world where there's people in centralized places that can stop you from transacting for whatever reason they want, right? Yep. Bank of America can close your account. So think of it instead that you have $25,000 in a Bank of America account, and tomorrow you need to flee. You need to get out of here. Yep. You're gonna have a problem. You might not be able to get that money out. They might not have the money to, oh, sorry, we don't have 25,000. You're gonna have to do a 3-day wait until we get the truck here, and you need to flee, right? And then also, if it's something you're fleeing from, I don't know, government's after you or something, well, they're just gonna shut down your account, so you have no access to it. Right. So all of a sudden, this is why when I hear things like people saying, oh, maybe the government created Bitcoin, maybe it's some sort of CIA plot. Sure, you can always think that about anything. There's no matter what comes out in this world, somebody will be able to say the government created that, the CIA created that, right? The difference is that people need to recognize is if I just would have saved the Bitcoin I had in 2013, I'd be retired today.
Right.
If you think the government wanted that for me, that was their intent, was to me.
That's a great point. That is a great point.
So there's no way that's why I look at it today.
That's
and saying, oh, the government's doing it, and they're trying. Okay, well, great. But did they really want me to get rich off Bitcoin? No, I doubt it. So that just tells me that they're, so number one, it's easy to travel with. Your entire finances can be, and I don't want to say this because I don't want people to think that I mean to do it, but you could memorize your 12-word or 24-word seed phrase, right? And basically all the money that you have only exists in your head. Until you get to wherever you're going. Now, I say don't do that because people have a terrible memory and will F up their seed words somehow in their head. And
I suggest tattooing it on the inside of your left thigh. They'll never get it.
Sure, just don't let any girls down there. That's all. now girls are going to be looking for that when they're down there.
That's right.
So you don't want to do that. No, but so then easy to travel with, easy to pay, person to person. That gold's a little bit difficult. We know how much is out there versus, gold that we don't know, and it's you can't counterfeit it. So way big differences than gold. I think that's why it is the scarcest asset in the world. That number's never going to go up. For those interested, and I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but it's kind of my number that I tell people because at least it's more manageable. And actually, when I gave this away, this idea first, it was very manageable. If you own 0.25 Bitcoin, okay, 0.25 is the magic number, and I'll tell you why. If you own 0.25 Bitcoin now or ever in the future, from here till ever, you own more Bitcoin than 99% of the world. So for the first time in your life, you can say you're part of the 1%. Now, it doesn't mean you're part of the 1% holders of Bitcoin. So make sure you hear what I said. You'll own more Bitcoin than 99% of the world forever. And that's just based on a 7.7 billion population, whether people believe that or not. And also that takes an assumption that the population will never go down. Okay, so if the population goes down to 2 billion because some a dinosaur-sized meteor, as NASA likes to tell us, is coming any day now. This asteroid's going to destroy us. If that happens and there's only 2 billion people left, then of course that number changes. But if the population only goes up 0.25 Bitcoin, and you'll own more than 99% of the world. It's a good starting point to get to. When I first announced that, it was worth about, I think it would have cost somebody $5,000 to get that 0.25. Now that's going to cost you
10 plus
$1,250.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's definitely gone way up. But no matter what, that number can never come down. And actually, that number should be quite a bit lower. The 0.25 takes another thing into account. It's pretending that there's 21 million coins. And I can explain to you why that's not the case, because only 18.5 have ever been released as of today. So there's only 18.5 million coins in circulation. The other ones get released on a time scale, dropping down to nothing at the end of 2140. So we'll actually, in our lifetime, I hate to break it to you guys, we'll all be dead by 2140 most likely. And so we won't ever
even Chrome.
It's coming. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm gonna ask Hillary. We'll see how long Hillary lives, then I'll make a so we will never see the 21 millionth coin. The other thing is there's rumors or reports or studies that show that like 3 to 4 million coins have been lost. And that's easy to see, because if you think of back to before even I got involved, when you're talking 2009, 10, 11, when it was worth a penny, 2 pennies, 3 pennies, many people would have had a lot of it. We've heard the story about the guy who took paid 10,000 Bitcoin for a pizza. Lots of stories like that. Well, many people had them on their hard drives. They changed computers just thinking this is never going to be anything. And those coins are gone forever. So if 3 or 4 million are gone, plus we know Satoshi, whoever that entity is, because he was the original person that was kind of mining all the beginning coins, has about 1 million in different wallets that have never been touched, never been moved. So most people consider that lost. So you're talking, 18.5 million, really minus about 4. So really there's only 14.5 right now out in existence. So to own one of those is definitely a step in the right direction. It means that there's only going to be 14.5 million ever, or as of right now. So, I mean, having one of those is very good. There's 350 million people just in the United States, right? So having just one of 21 million is a step in the right direction. Now,
that's a great, thank you for that.
Yeah. So 0.25 should make you feel pretty good, because 0.25, you get it right now, you put it away for cold storage, you can just sit back and at least know that no matter what happens to it, you own more than 99% of the world forever. Now, there's other. Are you guys talking a lot about other coins too, or on your show? Or yeah, I guess it's Crypto Vigilante. It's not. I mean, you're a
Uncle Vigilante, baby. Vigilante. Hey, we're talking about everything here. I do want to insert one thing here.
Yes,
I would encourage with all of my 5 weeks of knowledge of cryptocurrency. The one thing that I when I was getting in it and I invested in, this was when Coinbase would allow you to buy XRP. XRP went up from 22 cents to like 28 cents in a day or something like that. So I took $5,000 of profit off of that. And I invested it in Bitcoin. Okay. So at that point in time. Now, so I'm watching and I'm like, I can't wait to do that again. Just keep doing that. But then I realized that, you know what, that creates a taxable event. So at the end of this year, you could play that game, and the IRS doesn't give a shit if you invested in a coin that went to zero, right? Yep. I don't think they allow you to offset your losses, and maybe they do. I don't know, but
up to 3,000, I think.
Total. Up to 3,000 total. Okay. So one of the things that the Crypto Vigilante Summit was all about are privacy coins, and ultimately, we aren't going to go into that now. But I just would encourage people to think that if you're going to invest in some coins right now, life is long. This crypto ecosystem has proven that if you just hold, you're going to be just fine long term. So don't buy thinking you're going to become a day trader, because it becomes very tempting to do so when you see these big swings and such. Just get them, put them on a cold storage wallet, and forget about it. Like you said, you forget about it. I personally gave up drinking. And so I don't You know, I like my cigar, so I'll take a daily walk and smoke a cigar.
Mhm.
That's about my only vice, but I like the dopamine hits that that Blockfolio gives me. I'm
Right.
not gonna lie, it's
Right.
my only bit of dopamine I get these days.
Well, don't get me wrong. I do think about, I wonder how much is in there. Maybe it's, so I do.
Oh, I can totally see, but I do think it's a good discipline to. So for me, I look at it differently. I'm like, okay, if that $5,000, let's just focus on the $5,000 and forget if you could take $3,000 loss against it or whatever. Let's just say it's $10,000, and at my tax rate, you know, let's say net, it's 25% tax rate. So all of a sudden now, I owe.
Do you have your coins on Coinbase?
I had them on Coinbase, then I sent them to Exodus, and then I put them on my Trezor.
Okay, gotcha. Because the taxable event comes from leaving them on Coinbase. So just I teach people to take things off of Coinbase, because what happens is,
but I converted. I exchanged them, or I went to cash on Coinbase. Right. I thought that's what you do, is you just get you sell enough to get the U.S. cash, and then you can buy your Bitcoin, because I didn't think that they could exchange it on there.
They do have some exchange. There's ways to exchange it on Exodus. So we'll go through that and all in your thing. But yeah, I mean, the problem is that it is a taxable event if you ever. So let's say this idea real quick. Let's say you bought a Bitcoin when it was $1,000. Okay. So let's say you bought one Bitcoin. You said it's $1,000. I'll buy one.
Yes.
And today it's worth 40 or 50,000. Let's say
51,000 to make the math easy.
Good. And you said, right, 51,000. And you said, oh, I want to cash that out, or I want to send it to myself. In either of those cases, whether you cash it out at Coinbase or whether you send it to yourself, immediately they're going to issue to the IRS a capital gains report saying you had $50,000 in capital gains, in which case you owe the taxes on that capital gains, right? So here's what I teach people to do. As soon as you make that $1,000 purchase of the Bitcoin, take it off of Coinbase. Put it in your own wallet. At that point, there is no capital gains. You bought it for $1,000, you sold it for $1,000. Meaning it's a $0 net gain. Nothing goes to the IRS. They don't know a thing. Now, what you have in your wallet over time is going to grow. And at the end, if it's worth $50,000, there's ways to send that back to Coinbase and get $50,000 for it without them knowing what you paid for it to start. So,
okay, I got to give you this. Yeah, baby.
So there's ways. There's more things I can.
No, that's not I don't want to hit the boo button. Huh? Yeah, there's my boo, but this is my favorite.
Yes.
No, that's very important. That's very important. So, but if you're that person on Coinbase that is playing the market and you're like selling, see, this is, and I'm sure there are ways that these crypto day traders figured out. Bottom line is, you just, what you just shared again is worth the price of consultancy 100 times over, right?
There's some ways to, and that's the thing, is that when you hear somebody else, but that's the kind of thing we can cover in consultations. And I tell everybody, what I'm talking about too has nothing to do with any illegal activity. What I mean by that is, if you came on a consultation and said, I'm trying to do this or that, and it's an illegal thing, I'm going to end the consultation, because I'm not helping you launder money. I'm not helping you, hide illegal funds. But what I will do, I do believe heavily in the privacy of finances. If you and I have some sort of bet, or I do some work for you, I make you an intro for your show or something, and you agree to pay me, that's between you and I. And if you transfer money to me, that's nobody's business. The government shouldn't have anything to do with that. It's two human beings exchanging value, right? The problem in this world is that they have their heads in everything. They need to know everything that's going on, and they want their piece of it. And I've told this story a million times, but if you really think about what happens with money, right? So if you don't realize, the dollar bill, as soon as it's created, is created based off debt, right? So basically it's bought with bonds. There's no money. The Federal Reserve writes checks for these bonds, and they don't have anything in their account. So they're committing fraud, number one. Number two, the dollar's created, it has interest attached to it. The second that they pay you, right? So you go to work and you work your ass off and they pay you, we all know there's income tax, right? So right off the bat, they've taxed the money when it's creation, and they've taxed it when they pay you for your work. So now you've paid income tax. All right. So now let's say you finally save up enough money that you want to go buy some things. So you go and buy a TV, or you go buy a car or anything. Now think again that they're there taxing you no matter what you buy, right? Yeah. Here in California, 8.75 or whatever the tax rate is. So you're constantly paying tax on everything that you buy with the money that they've paid you, that they've already taxed because you're working, and they take that too. So let's say after all that, you finally save up enough money. You're like, shit, I'm gonna buy a house, right? So you buy a house, and of course there's taxes there, and then there's property taxes. So even after you work so hard to save the money after they've stolen from you already 3-4 times, you finally get a house, and they're going to charge you property taxes on that as well. And then when you die and you leave it to your family, there's an inheritance tax. So again, I mean, how many times can you be, basically anally raped over and over again by these people? And because it is a government created, government issued, government controlled government dollar that really, it says right on it, you don't own it. It says the United States of America. It's not owned by you.
And those who know Uncle Odd know what I call them. These are the Druid Babylonian bastards.
And they absolutely are. And they've used this forever. And anybody who's got a problem with crypto coins or Bitcoin or any of these, I'm just telling you, anything that comes along that is going to cause a ruffle in their feathers, it's going to make them think twice, it's going to make them have to react quicker than they maybe wanted, I'm all for that, man. I mean, right. It doesn't, we know, because I've heard people say, don't you think the government's going to come out and do something about Bitcoin? Yeah, eventually they're going to have to. But what people need to stand behind is that if they ever came out and banned it, what they're basically banning is free speech, because Bitcoin is simply digits on a file. So just like I can go and write anything I want and send it to you in the mail or whatever, then that shouldn't be protected or shouldn't be not allowed. Same thing with Bitcoin. It is the transfer of digits back and forth between people through file sharing. It is, and the code behind Bitcoin is free speech. Somebody sat down and wrote a code. So if we're going to allow the government to step in and say, sorry, we don't allow you to write words on a paper anymore that the computer can do, or computer can work out its computer code, then maybe an event like that would get everybody to stand up and say, enough is enough. You can't. So I'm all for, poking the bear as far as we cannot just sit back and be like, no, we're already defeated. The central banks win, and they're going to, you can be that person. I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to be the person that if I see something that definitely is going to cause them to have to react, and the way they're going to react is it's coming, is a digital dollar, and they're going to say it's better than Bitcoin for all these reasons, but you can bet it's, number one, it's centralized. So it means that they can, again, close down your account, not allow you to, Odd, you're not wearing your mask today. You get less payment than you should from this, payout or social credit score we talked about before. There's a lot of chances of something like that coming around the corner. And they're already starting to do it. They're already starting to, shut you down from saying certain things on certain platforms.
They are.
Another one. The Bitcoin will eventually be, right now, they've got it controlled, I think, pretty well. And what I mean is they've regulated the exchanges, right?
Yes.
So the way that they've described it, I think is best description that I've heard, is the on and off ramps. So everything that happens on the freeway, and we'll call that the Bitcoin freeway, the crypto freeway.
Okay.
I can send you Bitcoin. You can send me Bitcoin. I can send it to Dave Weiss. He can send it to Ab. Ab can send it back to me. All right. So we're all transacting in the Bitcoin freeway. And there's no really regulation there, meaning that when I send it to you, I don't have to prove you own that wallet. It's between you and I. It's between you and Dave. Now, when you get off the freeway or when you got on the freeway, chances are they were there regulating that. What I mean is, if you try and get off with your Bitcoin and say, I want cash now, they're going to say, well, who are you? And let me see your ID and this and that. And they want to know who you are. So they've regulated the off ramp. Same thing with, for us to get on the on ramp or get onto the freeway, we had to give them our information to buy Bitcoin at some point, right? So they do have it regulated. Again, that's not a knock on Bitcoin. That is a knock on our government and the financial laws that they've imposed on certain money transmitting businesses. Now, many people have said, well, if that's the case, then why would you be interested in Bitcoin? Why would we even care if they already have it regulated? And here's the problem, is people need to recognize that everything that happens with Bitcoin should be on the freeway. And we should never have to get off, and we should never have to get on. What I mean by that is, once people realize that Bitcoin is the same as money. For instance, if you gave me $100 bill, I don't think to myself, hey, how do I go get money for this $100 bill? I know that the $100 bill is money, right? I need to think of Bitcoin the same way. When you hand me a Bitcoin, the first thought shouldn't be, where do I go change this in for money? I need to recognize, oh, the Bitcoin is the money.
Right.
Is the same. It's no different. Now, right now, that's a little bit of a problem because I can't go pay my rent in it and I can't go buy groceries with it, right? So that's why people then think, oh shit, I need to trade this in because I need to go pay rent. Something I tell everybody in my consultations. I, as often as possible, ask everybody. In fact, you can call my landlord and say, does Jeran tell you every single month? He's getting kind of tired of it, but I tell him every single month, are you accepting Bitcoin yet? And he says, it's you and one other guy that won't shut up about that. I said, well, I'm just telling you that, you should accept it. And at first he's like, I heard it's volatile. I heard it's all over the place. And I said, just look at it on a year-to-year basis. I said, your problem is you're thinking, oh, if I accept this from Jeran today, and let's say my rent is $1,800, and then tomorrow that same amount is worth $1,400, you're going to feel like you made a $400 loss. I get that. I said, but you need to look at the following year on that same date, and you'll realize that no matter what, it's always going to be worth more.
Yes.
So at least that's how it's gone, right? So for instance, that's why once this gets hammered out and people start realizing this, this is going to take off. It's just like I use the car dealership example, because if you went and bought let's say it's 50,000. So let's say you want to go buy a BMW today. You go look and it's 50,000 and you say, I'll give you a Bitcoin. They say, okay. So you make that transfer. Everybody's happy. The problem is that the car dealership isn't in the business of speculation, right? So they don't want to take the chance that tomorrow Bitcoin goes down to 40,000. They're going to feel like they made a $10,000 loss on that car. And that's not what they're in the business of, right? Car dealerships are in the business of buying a car for a certain price, selling it to make a profit. Mm-hmm. They don't want to speculate with Bitcoin. And they also, I mean, if they did speculate, they would realize that tomorrow it could go up to 60,000, in which case they made 10,000 more than the car cost, right? But the goal should be, they should recognize, well, if I take the Bitcoin today and I just don't think about it for a year, that it seems that it's always gone up on a year-to-year basis. Once people start realizing that there's value in that, because right now I think car dealerships that do accept it, and there is car dealerships out there, what they do, as soon as you give them the Bitcoin, they would immediately cash it out for 50,000. Mm-hmm. That to me is the problem with Bitcoin, is too many people think of it as money, or think of it as, how do I get money for my Bitcoin? What do I do? That's the problem with it. Eventually we need to realize, just like we know work equals money, meaning if I go work, somebody gives me a bunch of dollar bills.
Yeah.
Different than Bitcoin. If you go work, somebody should give you a bunch of Bitcoin, and you shouldn't have another thought of, how do I get money for this? That is money. It is money. It's just not a lot of people. I realize that because I worked for Bitcoin. That's the thing a lot of people don't do, or never have done. Right now, people are paying money for Bitcoin. So they feel like, oh, you buy into Bitcoin and then you have to sell out of Bitcoin. That's not the way Bitcoin is intended. It's intended to be money itself. Not so Coinbase and these exchanges are not part of the intention of Bitcoin. There was no talk about having exchanges where people had to go buy Bitcoin, and it wasn't the original idea behind it. It's just kind of what happens when anybody gets a hold of things, and somebody said, oh, I'll be this company and I'll allow people to buy Bitcoin from me. And then, since they're a money transmitting business, they have to be, regulated. So anyway, that's just kind of pointing out that the goal would be, and I think we're 5 or 10 years away from that, people finally realizing, oh, Bitcoin is the money. I don't need to trade it for dollars. And then we can all be on the freeway together.
Right.
Now at that point, the government is going to have a problem. Then they are going to say, oh shit, we don't have eyesight into this anymore. And they're going to make some sort of a step towards getting that. I don't know what that is. I've heard a lot of different ideas floated around, even one that said that, eventually they might come out with their own dollar and even offer a huge amount of it in exchange for a small amount of Bitcoin, so that they can kind of start to get rid of Bitcoin, and they'll entice people by saying, okay, your Bitcoin's worth $50,000 right now. We'll give you $110,000 for every Bitcoin you turn in. So it could be something like that. So there's a lot of different, because what people don't realize is they can't really stop it. Not as much as people, it's not a stoppable thing. People don't realize that transmitting Bitcoin between people, and even if they shut down certain apps or websites, people can innovate and create new websites and apps. So anyway, I don't know where I got off on that tangent. But
no, that was excellent.
Yeah, once you realize that Bitcoin will eventually be the money. Oh, one more thing about the privacy coins. Another thing we can talk about in the consultation if you want, but there are coins out there that have not branched off of Bitcoin, but taken the Bitcoin code and said, these are things that we think would be better. And so they came out with their own coin. And one of those is Monero. So, if you want to reach out about Monero, a huge one, Crypto Vigilante talks about it. Dollar Vigilante, obviously real big on it. Why? Because it eliminated the open ledger. It created a way of rings. It's called ring signatures, where you're able to basically hide the amount and who it's sent to and from, which is great. Now, that'll be the first coin to get in trouble. That'll be the first coin that the government comes out and says something against. They just haven't done it yet. It's only $250 today a coin, and there's only it's a little more than Bitcoin, but it's about 21 million that we'll see in our lifetime, maybe 22 or 23 million. But that has a big chance for growth as well.
I want to show you something here, and just watch. Just kind of read along. It's only 30 seconds. Those who have came a little late didn't see it at the beginning. But I do mention Monero in here. Hold on.
Where are we looking?
You see that? Here, just watch. There. 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 Don't do it. That was the fun part of the summit. Is it was all about Monero, and then everyone was like, just tell everyone don't buy Monero. Just
oh, that's what. Okay, gotcha. I was like, what's going on? Wait, I thought you really felt that way. I'm like, what? You're not going to buy it?
No, the meme. There's a meme that's out there of the Monero enthusiasts, which is don't buy Monero. Just, let's end the discussion right now. It's kind of like when Jeff Berwick talks about the masked ones.
Yes.
It's like, don't get in their way. Let them get their vaccinations, just sooner the better. So it's funny. But yeah, Monero is, so when I was saying earlier, imagine that dollar bill, mm-hmm. or $100 bill, you turn it over and you're able to see everybody who transacted with it. The Monero, you turn it over and it's like the $100 bill you have now. You don't know where it's been. So Monero is what people think they are buying when they buy Bitcoin. And
here's a great thing about Monero. People don't realize this is really the coin that you should be getting if you want to trade between each other. Me and Uncle Odd here, Dave Weiss, because right now the fees to send Monero are 2 cents, whether you're sending $100 or whether you're sending 14 million.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. That's what Bitcoin was in 2013 when I used to transact with it. And that's unbelievably efficient, easy, fun to trade between people, and definitely something that's better for people that you trust and know. You want to be careful a little bit about sending it to a website or somebody you don't know, because again, I've seen a lot of examples of, people saying, oh, I'll give you this for this much Monero. And then you send them to Monero and they just disappear. And you were talking to somebody with a fake name and a fake product that they're selling. And that's real hard to get it back because again, there's a lot of hidden stuff in the transaction and the ledger. Same thing.
Well, one thing that I found is that that I learned last night is kind of Monero doesn't seem so easy to be able to buy. So that's a lot of the chat at, it was, the whole conference was all about Monero, but man, people were frustrated with not being able to efficiently buy it. So, that's why Coinbase, was launched, right? To be able to give people easier access, and you can't, Monero's harder. So, but there's value there. If you do what's hard now, that $250 investment, just imagine if you bought Bitcoin when it was $250.
Exactly.
And, but this time it's a totally private coin. And this is at the summit, they were saying, this is what's going to get the interest of the really, really high net worth people, mm-hmm. is that they're going to be very attracted to the privacy of Monero. So there is, that could be what is adopted more than Bitcoin by the wealthy. And when the wealthy buy it, that's when you see, maybe that $50,000 comparative, maybe it's 150,000 in the same amount of time. Who knows?
Who knows? And with Monero, not that I would ever say to do this or anything, but that you could create basically an offshore bank account, completely unknown who owns that address. Only you would know it in the entire world, totally private, and you could put Monero there. So again, in the consultation too, I can tell you a couple places where you can get Monero for spot. And if you really don't mind KYC, it's pretty easy to get for spot, but then they know who you are. But again, the great thing is once you send it off of that platform, that exchange, if you make one more send, well, then you've erased kind of the history. That's one of the great things about Monero. There's also some websites where you can pay in lots of different ways, even cash by mail. I know it sounds crazy, but there is sites that even I would trust doing that. Once you know who you're dealing with and once you see that they've got a good score and a good reputation, those people are in the business of doing cash for Monero, and they're not in the business of stealing your $1,000 cash. It wouldn't be good for them. You would just go to the site, you would make a complaint. you would lower their feedback score, which is usually 100. Those are the only people I would ever deal with. In which case, they're going to lose much more business than they, by stealing your $1,000. They're in the business of having an upcharge. Now, those people do charge an up fee, 10 to 15%. But again, it just comes down to what your specific goals are, or what your specific wants and needs are, and we can always talk about that in a consult.
What do you think of this? Now, I'm just going real with you right now. Okay. I have 2 IRAs.
Okay.
One is, I'm going to call it my conservative one.
Okay.
It's one that, in my current state of mind, I'm 56 years old. Okay. I'm thinking, there will be a time, I still think I'm going to be, I don't know if I'll ever retire, but that's kind of the safety area. I have another IRA that is like 60 grand, right? Okay. So now that I'm in here, I'm flirting with the idea, should I just cash that bitch out and pay Uncle Sam the 25% on it, and 10% early withdrawal fee, I think it is. So it's like you net out 65% and just pump it into Monero.
I thought the same thing, because right now, when you talk about, you can have 10 Monero tonight for $2,500, right? Now, last week you could have had 10 Monero for $1,500. So obviously prices change a lot. But to me, again, think of how great you would feel today if you had 10 Bitcoin, or if you had 20 Bitcoin. You'd feel pretty good. But I'm
thinking what I'm trying to break through in my mind is that built-in Pavlovian Heisman of thinking, fuck, I am going to have to pay, 35% of this to Uncle Sam. But if I can get through that investment in 10 years, when I would,
or 20. Think about it this way. Let's say it's me and I've got 60,000 in some sort of account, and I've got to pay taxes. So I'm only going to end up with 40,000, let's say. And I'm able to do that plus 10,000 I have. So I'm able right now to buy a Bitcoin. To me, rather than have that IRA or that 60,000, to have one Bitcoin that I put on a cold wallet, as long as I tell myself, and here's what a lot of people don't get, is I think it would be smart to put that Bitcoin and say to yourself, I'm not going to touch this for 20 years. And stick to that, because the problem that most people have is that they cash out too quick. And I've been trying to tell people this with that. Have you been to the website Library, right? Library or Odyssey? Right. So a lot of people have a lot of coins in there that they've accumulated, and a lot of people are cashing them out. So for instance, if they have 17,000 coins, or let's say 20,000, it's easier to go by. Let's say they have 20,000 of these library credits, and they go look, and all of a sudden library is up to like, I don't know what it is, 50 cents or 15 cents, whatever. But they maybe do the math and like, oh my God, that's $2,000, right? So they immediately are like, I got $2,000, and they go cash out their 20,000 coins, and now they got $2,000. The problem with that is you just did something that didn't change your life. It provided you $2,000 today, and you might feel good about that. The problem is that think of all the people who did that with Bitcoin. They had 20,000 coins, and anytime you make an increase, and that's thinking like a poor person. That's thinking like an employee. It's not thinking like a rich people don't think that way. Rich people put investments looking way off in the future. They don't think that they don't buy Apple stock and say, when Apple gets to double the price it is now, I'm going to cash out. If they did that, they would never get rich. Yeah. So I try and tell people what I'm doing. I already created for my son he just was born. So he's 5 months old now, or 4 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So he's very young, but I've already created what I'll call a college fund, even though it'll be more of a don't go to college fund, but
an unschooled fund.
Right. But I've already created that and sent Bitcoin there, and I feel like I'm done, because that is all the savings he needs to have in 18 years. Yeah. One of those things where now again, if there's some sort of emergency and I ever needed to get to it, of course I could do that. But I'm saying for me, that's and I don't pay attention to the fact if it went down to 25,000 tomorrow, went up to 75,000, that's all great news or bad news, depending. But in 20 years, you will be rewarded. So for you, your $60,000, I don't know what kind of, I don't really deal with IRAs. I don't know what kind of growth you would expect in 20 years from that 60,000.
Well, that's just it. That's just it. You're talking to a guy who lost half his net worth in 2008.
Right. Like that. I was a store manager at CVS. We had a pharmacist who had told me that he was at 1.6 million or 1.4 million, some of the, and was ready to retire. He's going to retire in like 6 months. And then that happened.
Yeah.
And he wasn't watching his 401k. He wasn't watching his stocks, and, turned around and there was 400,000 in there instead. And then all of a sudden he had to still work for 10 more years. So insanity. But I don't know what those IRAs do. But again, definitely if I had $60,000 cash in my house, I would definitely trade that out. The problem with the growth idea is somebody could say, oh, but that 60,000 will be worth 1.1 million in 20 years. Okay. I get that. And that's why the problem is, though, you don't know what 1.1 million will buy in 20 years.
Right.
So that's why I say, when people say, what's a Bitcoin going to be worth in 20 years? I don't have an answer for that, because I would have to know what the value of things were. So if somebody tells you Bitcoin will be worth $1 million in 20 years, I don't think that's that impressive, because $1 million may not buy you a house. We went to a $100,000 house today, or $200,000 house, which is going to be some shithole. That might be what that $1 million buys you in 20 years. So you have to think of more. A Bitcoin will be worth a Bitcoin in 20 years. What will a Bitcoin get you? I think it'll get you $1 million house today. Now that house might cost 20 million then. I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen to the dollar, right? We do know what's going to happen with the Bitcoin. It's worth a Bitcoin. That's the problem. We don't know what the dollar is going to be worth in 20 years.
That's a great way to put it.
What do you buy?
Yeah.
Right. So one other thing I want to mention, just because I know it's a beginner's thing, and I want to make sure that people get this. It's another complaint I keep hearing, or people don't understand. When we say there's 21 million Bitcoins ever, I've heard people say, yeah, but you can devise it in as many times as you want. So I'm like, okay, that doesn't mean that there's not 21 million. It's a good thing that you can keep moving the decimal point and adding zeros to the right, right? Our problem with the dollar is that the lowest amount that it goes to is a penny. So knowing that, it means that the only thing a dollar can do as value is go down. Because if a dollar value started to go up, eventually we would need to have half pennies, 10th pennies, right? Well, we don't go that direction. The dollar goes the other way. With Bitcoin, the value goes up so much that like I said, I got paid 0.3 Bitcoin for writing articles and thought, oh, this is shit. I'm only getting 0.3 Bitcoin, and now 0.3 Bitcoin is worth $20,000. So again, that will only continue, meaning right now 0.01 Bitcoin, or what, what is 0.01 Bitcoin? About $1,000?
0.01 of Bitcoin would be $5,000.
Yeah. Okay. No. Hold on. Let me do this. I don't want to be wrong here. 0.01. My math's bad. 0.01. No, 500. So we were close.
Oh, 500.
So,
right.
0.01 is, 500. But again, I mean, that it's just good to know, or good to kind of watch that those amounts will change in the right direction, where all of a sudden 0.001 Bitcoin will be worth 500.
Do you know one thing that I did when I first came out of college? Somebody had told me to do this, and I'm really glad that I did. But they said, get a whole life insurance policy, and mine was $68. Do you know, every month, my entire life, I have auto drafted $68 still today. And that's called investing in something that you just don't miss. I just never missed it.
Right.
And right now it's like $200,000.
Right.
And I bring that up only because if you think the same way now, that if you got into the discipline of spending $50 or $75 a month on Bitcoin, and you just didn't, you're just like, screw it. This is my discipline for the rest of my life. I'm just going to do that. My goodness gracious.
And don't even look at the price. Don't become somebody that, like, let's say today's the day to buy, and you look at the price, like, oh, it's at 52,000. Let me wait till it goes down. Don't do that. Don't worry about the price.
That's called dollar cost averaging.
Yep. You just want to get it. If it's $100 today, it's fine, because no matter what price you buy it at least to me, in a year, in 10 years, in 5 and 15, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter that you waited until the price was down, and you're going to kick yourself when the price doesn't go down, right? So if all of a sudden you go back the next day and it's 53, 54, 55, oh God, you're going to be all stressed out about it. Just don't worry I don't worry about the price when it's a day that, the end of the month, and I look, okay, I've got $150. I'm willing to spend that. It doesn't matter what the price is. I'm going to Coinbase, I'm buying $150 and I'm sending that to myself, and walking away from it, thinking of it as a loss, knowing that there's no other opportunities for me to secure a future, possibly, right? I mean, it's certainly not guaranteed, but what other chance do I have of in 20 years being able to possibly buy a house and retire? somebody like me who no longer works in the rat race or no longer, as a store manager for a drugstore where I did have a 401k and things like that. This is your best bet for some sort of a retirement, especially because there's only 21 million coins. So get in now. And like I said, it is the scarcest asset in the world. There's not a lot of assets out there that there's a certain limited amount. It'll never go up. And like you said, as people go along and they lose coins, or you said when you die, maybe nobody's going to find your treasure. That will happen. And as that happens, people don't realize the value of Bitcoin will go up.
Right.
The other thing is too, a lot of people say, oh, well, if the government announces tomorrow that it's illegal, that the price is going to drop. And if it does do that, you have to recognize the reason for that is because people like you, like me, would be selling for less than we would want today. Don't do that. If the government comes out tomorrow and says Bitcoin's illegal, and every single person that holds Bitcoin says big deal, and doesn't change the price that they're willing to sell for, the price would stay the same or go up. The problem becomes when people, it's called, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? Mm-hmm. So if the government comes out and says Bitcoin is illegal, and people who bought Bitcoin at 40,000 are just freaking out like, oh, it's illegal now, so I got to go and I'll go sell it for 20. Well, then you're driving the price down because now you've dropped the price you're willing to take for Bitcoin, which is what the price comes from. The price that you see online is from people that are selling Bitcoin, right? And people don't realize I can go put a sell order right now for $1 million. So what I do is I go to a website that's an exchange and I put my Bitcoin on there and I say, I'm selling this for $1 million. And that's my price. And if anybody wants to match it, they can buy it. And the problem is that there's a lot of people in front of me that are going to be selling at prices way lower than $1 million, 100,000, 75,000, 60,000. Well, that's what drives the price. Is whatever that kind of lowest price is what the price is. And that's kind of how it's, so again, it's just one of those things where people think that the price is driven by something else. It's simply what you're willing to, sell for. So if somebody asked you, let's say you have a whole Bitcoin today, somebody might ask you, Uncle Odd, what are you willing to sell that Bitcoin for? My hope would be you would say nothing.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, that's the hope, because I mean, again, it would have to be life-changing for me. So if I had a Bitcoin today and somebody came to me and said, Jeran, I'll take that Bitcoin. What would you sell it to me for? I would need to retire. So I don't know, 2 million. And if they say no, then, I mean, that's really the price of Bitcoin. That's the value to me, right?
Right.
That's where
do you know, somebody had asked me this and I have no freaking clue, but it's a gentleman, he's in his 70s and he has a daughter, and he was wanting to be able to set her up with her own, he's just wanting to gift her some Bitcoin. Is to where it's hers. It's not his that are somewhere, but it's hers. Mm-hmm. Is that possible?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. If it's for family, definitely, I think that it's easily doable. I mean, I could create a paper wallet that I could give to somebody. The only thing is that I would be able to see the private key when I created it, which isn't a big deal. Let's say I'm giving it to my son or my cousin or somebody. Yeah. It's my sister. Let's say I'm giving it to my sister. Hopefully she would recognize, and I would recognize, that I didn't look at the private key. I didn't record it. But that's why you don't want to trust anybody selling that, right? So for instance, you might go to eBay. Right. Be careful on that, because again, like I could sell, that's a
great point.
Let's say I got a little, I've seen them for sale before, like a little metal coin, right? And it'll have like a little scratch off on the back. They'll sell it and they'll say, now again, some of those might be legit. I don't know, but I would never buy one, simply because you could have one printed and see what the private key is, right? Write it down, copy it down, cover it with some sort of adhesive that needs to be scratched off. And then you sell them to people. Somebody buys it and they put $5,000 on it. And then they give it to somebody and they say, look, here's the address. You can send money to it. And until you scratch this off, nobody knows the private key. The problem is, of course, somebody is sitting at their house with the private key in front of them. They've got the wallet opened up on their computer. And the second that somebody puts money on there, they'll steal it. Now, again, some of those companies might be reputable, but I just am always careful about things like that. You'd have to make sure the private key has never been.
So it's all about the private key then. So I could basically buy some one Bitcoin, let's say, I can't do this, guys, but if I bought a Bitcoin for each of my 4 daughters, okay, and I bought a Trezor for each of them, right? And I put it on that Trezor, and I was able to get all of the keywords on a piece of paper, but I'm their dad and this is a gift.
Okay.
And I give them the treasure and those keywords. I don't have a good memory. I don't want to remember it, but that is basically gifting. That's like giving them 50,000 in cash saying,
Yep.
God bless you.
Even more than that too. You don't even have to give them the treasure, believe it or not. You could smash that thing in the street and just give them the words, right?
Oh, got it. Right.
Treasure is not even really, I mean, that's one thing people get confused. They think that you have to remember all the coins that exist, all the Bitcoin exists on the blockchain. They don't exist anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
And really what you're doing when you spend Bitcoin is you have a private key, which has authorized you to spend a certain amount of Bitcoin that sits in an address. But if you have a Trezor device or you have a Ledger Nano, all that exists on there is the private key for an address, right? The coins sit on the ledger. So you can always smash your little Trezor device into the smithereens. As long as you have the words, they can always bring it back. So I'm just saying, you don't have to actually give them the physical thing. You could, but yeah, you're right. Family, for sure. Or I think you talked to the guy yesterday about paper wallets. They're nice to give. I mean, if you're not talking about a huge amount because basically once they open it up and they reveal the private key, they could then spend it. I think your idea is great for your daughters, and the fact that you could basically hand them 12 words and say, store this with your life, maybe even carve it out for them on a little metal plate. Here's these 12 words. You always have this because this has an amount of Bitcoin on it that will be worth a lot.
I freaking love that. I love that.
Great
I love your idea. I'm a project guy, and I love your idea of going to Home Depot, buying one of those little Dremels or whatever the hell they are, and etching in. I'm going to do this for each of my daughters for Christmas this coming year. I just know I am.
The other thing that you could do is I've seen punch kits. You ever seen a punch kit that has like a two-sided? It's got a letter on each side, and you use a hammer. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but you can. You could punch kit the words in there too if you didn't want to engrave it.
But the big idea is at any point in time, if you want to give this as a Christmas gift, you could put $250 on this thing and gift it to them and just say, there's a lot of love that went into creating this. I made it by hand. And I'm just telling you that at some point in your life, let's agree to agree. It's going to be at least 10 years, but you're going to then take this and you're going to pull it out and you're not ever going to lose it. And you're going to think of your old man when you ultimately do download an Exodus wallet and enter these words in there and just know, honey, I love you. That would be just so cool,
Yeah, it'd be very nice of you. And the words actually exist anywhere. So it's not even, because a lot of people have said, well, what happens if Ledger goes out of business? What happens if Trezor goes out? What if Exodus goes out? Well, those words are not exclusive to those wallets. They can be used in any wallet that comes along because they're basically derivatives. They're basically hashed out versions of the longer form thing. So I think that's a fantastic idea. I don't know what the best way to gift is. I've thought about it too, because I would love to spend, especially with not so much with Bitcoin, just because it's too expensive to send right now. It's fine for what we're talking about, but I'm saying I would love to put $25 on a bunch of different little somethings and then kind of hand that to people just so they can use it. Buy something online so they get kind of used to it. The problem with that, of course, is I would have to pay $15 to put the 25 on there. And then they're going to have to pay 15 of that 25 to buy something. So right now, Bitcoin's not being used a lot for.
But I think isn't that the whole thing behind XRP that solved for that? I mean, take away the SEC lawsuit. I can't imagine that XRP would be considered a security. I just cannot.
No,
gymnastics that.
Like Bitcoin Cash, some of these other ones that are coming out, Monero having a low fee, and we don't know. Maybe eventually Bitcoin will. Again, the problem with it is it's not coming from anything other than people transacting large amounts that don't care about $15 fees. So, for instance, if you're sending $5,000 from one wallet to the other, you probably don't care. You want it done quickly, so you put a fee of $10, right? And then it gets done on the next block, and you're happy. But what that does to people like us sending $10 or $25 is we all of a sudden have to up our fees to make sure we get picked up in a block. We don't want to be, left behind. So will that go away? I hope so. Again, I don't think that, but for like hand-to-hand, like Monero, that's something you could do right now. Put a Monero on a bunch of different little paper wallets or little coins or something, because it's so cheap to send. It's 2 cents. You could just send Monero everywhere for having fun. I mean, I used to do that with Bitcoin. I used to take Bitcoin and just send it. I have all kinds of addresses, just have, tons of different, because it didn't cost anything to send it there. So I was just constantly moving it around and putting it. Now today you can't really do that because it's not cost efficient to spend $5 every time you want to move from one address to another. But with Monero, you're in that position right now where you could have, and people don't realize this either. You could have 1 million Bitcoin addresses tonight. It's that easy to create a Bitcoin address. And with Monero, same thing. You can just create address after address after address after address, and then move all your Monero to all these different addresses. And if you think that's something the government came up with, is the ability to put wealth in thousands of places, then you don't understand this government or what they use to, keep an eye on you and control you.
So you could literally have 1,000 beds that you could, how people used to hide money in between their mattress. So we have 1,000 digital beds in our heads now.
Right.
You can just stash your Monero in
stacks of words, but if you did it that way. But again, here's the crazy thing: is you could have all those addresses exist on the Exodus wallet. The Exodus wallet would only have one set of words, and your one set of words would open up all those addresses. So many different ways to.
Well, I'm going to definitely. I want a 2-hour consultation with you, so we'll figure out that, and I am going to pay you for that consultation. So this is
charge you double.
Yeah, charge me double.
Right.
And because I know that it is going to be an investment, not an expense, and I highly value the insight. I mean, it's like if I used to be a print salesman, and when you print a magazine, you have to go through a make ready. And if you could lower the time of my make ready of getting onto that super highway, man, that's worth a lot. That is so worth it. And just the angst and the mental anguish. So I'm really excited for that. We'll do that. And then I will definitely do a show to talk about how it went. And I'm just a big fan, Jeran. Really, thank you very much for
you and everything you do, and love watching your stuff. And I don't know if there's anybody in the chat that has questions, but you can always feel free to reach out and ask me. And the one thing that you said there, so when I got started, and I know a lot of people have the same problem too. It took me, and I don't remember because it was 2013, but I do remember it taking a while until I even felt comfortable to okay, I'm going to try and do my first sentence. Like you said, the angst there is very, and so I can honestly tell people that after an hour, you'll be able to do that, and you won't have that same fear. And, you'll get enough warnings that you will understand at least what you're doing. And that's something that, like I said, a lot of people who started in this didn't have that luxury. So you're in a privileged position, and getting told things like what happened with seed words that we told you earlier, and what happens with capital gains, and what happens with some of these privacy coins. Those are things that people before us, or before me, or before you, have taken years to kind of figure out and iron out and kind of understand. So really, hopefully people feel pretty lucky that even now you can be at the beginning of something and take advantage of those who have been around for a while, take that knowledge and go forward with it. And, at least for us, it's taken us a lot of years to get to that point where we're like, now we get, for somebody to know that they could, part of me thinks sometimes man, would it almost be better to be come in now.
I was thinking that when you were saying that earlier, I was thinking, man, I feel like I'm on the leading edge, and I'm kind of glad I wasn't on the bleeding edge, because
I wish I would have come in now. The problem with coming in, I wish I would have came in maybe a year ago, when prices were 12,000, right? 13,000.
Right.
Just bit the bullet and said, okay, let's save up 12,000. Let's get one Bitcoin. I would feel so good today if I had one Bitcoin. I'd feel great, because I would put that Bitcoin away and I would say, you know what? I don't need to worry about retirement. I think that one Bitcoin in 20 years. So I'd tell my wife, hey, we just need to get through the next 20 years. Maybe at the end of the, I don't have that luxury right now. So I think that is, and to come in last year or a year ago and be able to watch some of these videos, watch the Dollar Vigilante, go to these summits, and after an hour have a consultation with me, and after an hour have the understanding that somebody would have, I think it's hugely beneficial versus having to go through, like you said, we've all lost money, by the way. Sometimes I think I come across as somebody who's never lost money in Bitcoin or anything like that. No, there's learning. I've contributed to one of those freaking plus fund things where, you show up and you're like, this is back when Bitcoin was worth nothing. But at the same time, you were like, oh, I just put in a half Bitcoin, and after 3 days, I'll get double my money. Then you fall for those traps because there's nobody there telling you, hey, that's a scam. So all these things happen. I've put money on a web wallet before. So I, was trying to transfer from one thing to another, and I was like, I don't have a wallet to put. Okay, so I go online, web wallet, found some website. It's like, oh, keep your Bitcoin here on this web wallet. Just send to this address. So I sent the Bitcoin like $50 to that address, and then you're waiting, and you're like, it says nothing's arrived. You look at your wallet, it's gone. You're like, what the hell is going on? And then you realize that they put their address there for you to send it to. And then like after you send it, it switches to your address again. And then you're like, wait, I sent it to a different. And then you realize, oh, this whole site's a scam. And by that time, it's too hard to actually do anything about it. Who are you going to tell? Who is going to care?
Right.
Nobody there.
There is no FDIC insurance.
In fact, I'll probably laugh at you if you tried to contact somebody and say, hey, this guy stole. What did they steal? $50 online? Sorry, tough shit. So that's where you kind of learn, okay. And I think some of those mistakes are helpful. What I mean by that is when you make a mistake like that, you'll never do that again.
Yeah, that's right.
I will never send coin ever again from any coin that I ever have to any web wallet because of that $150 loss. So
right.
That's another thing that I think sometimes maybe hearing from me and even sitting down in a consultation won't click. Kind of like this person who gave their seed words away. They needed to make that mistake. That no matter what I would have told them, I don't think it was registering with them that when I was saying only you, doesn't matter if you get a phone call, an email, or anything, that you can never give your seed words away. Somehow from that, they took from that to mean unless you are resyncing your wallet, in which case all it took was somebody saying, oh, we need to resync your wallet. We need your seed keys. Oh, okay, we'll give them to you. So, sometimes it takes a hard lesson to learn it, but I hope that we can at least eliminate some of that. And I think we've done that. I guarantee just in people listening to my show, even if they hate me for talking about Bitcoin, which many people do, and they get back to what you used to talk about. And now it seems like you're all about money and whatever. I don't really care, but I do think that everybody listening, I've saved people money, whether they realize it or not. I've saved them money of not losing it by learning on their own and falling for some trap or going to one of these HYIP sites and trying to get rich that way. So I think that at least some people, whether they won't even realize it, in the long run, I've actually saved them.
Right.
So
right. No, big fan of that. So, man, this was 2 hours of your time that you've given us and at the Uncle Lod Little Kids Roundtable. So thank you so much, Jeran. I just cannot tell you how informative this was for me. And I've done several shows now, and this is kind of the one I've been looking for as far as just being able to bring the cookies down from the top shelf to a level that even I can reach them. So
we're kind of all over the place, but again, a good thing is if you do sign up for the consultation, you can, let me know. I always ask right from the beginning, where are you at? What have you done? What have you not done? And then I kind of go by where you are. So if you say, oh, I bought Bitcoin, I've sold Bitcoin, I've got this wallet, then I take it from that position of making sure you've done it safely. And do we need to move some stuff around? And if you say, I haven't done a damn thing, I don't know a damn thing, then we start from step one. All right. First thing we're going to do, we're going to go to this site. We're going to download this. We're going to go to Coinbase. You're going to sign up. You're going to do that. So it really allows people to, take it from anywhere. So when you sign up, we'll do the same with you. And I know we were a little bit all over the place, but hey, it's good. People need to get a little bit of info. So it's, again, jeranism.com/crypto. And I look forward to seeing you sign up, Uncle Odd.
Excellent. And you have my, we're texting, right? You have my, okay.
Yep.
Because after this, if you have a couple minutes, I'm going to give you a quick buzz because I have an idea. I just want to run it by you. And then we can have that at a future show.
Give me a few minutes after the show because I'm going to talk to some people on my D Live and then I'll answer you. Or are you texting me or you call me?
I'll call you.
Okay. Yeah. Call me.
Just text me when you're available. How about that? Okay, perfect. All right. Hey, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you hanging in. And I hope you enjoyed the comment. If you did, just let us know in there. Smash that like button, hit the notification.